There they go. All right. Good morning, guys.
Thanks. Good morning, Dustin.
Good morning.
All right. Sorry, I forgot about you for a minute, man. How'd everything else going? Love you guys. Just forgot about you. All right. Cool. All right. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Woo. Love it. One more time for energy. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Woo. I love it. All right. Welcome to the 10th of June. I'm seeing the world 41 years in now, so same with Brian. I think we're more like 2 minutes apart to what our mom said.
Man, I don't look 4 days away. 41.
You don't? You don't? Me either. I feel more like 3, so I think that's a good thing. Yeah, good. Well, that's all. Age is a feeling, right? All right. So, anyways, welcome to today. We got a few things planned. Keith's in today. We're going to go over some bay and bow info. We got approved to corporate to go to bays and bows on Provia. In addition, you can still do the Pelowins, but obviously, as we know, the limited information that we had on them made sometimes life a living heck. So now we can do garden windows, bays, bows aspect. If there's some things we might be able to try to get our hands on to, you need special approval from WAF to make sure you can do it. But again, we want to make sure, we're opening the lines up for success with you guys. So today, after he's done, I've got a little exercise. Just want to make sure that we are understanding in full pricing. There's some things I went to Phoenix over the weekend or last week towards Wednesday and Thursday or Tuesday and Wednesday. It took me a little bit to the end of the week because I was basically, I don't know, I just didn't feel like working at the end of the week, to be honest with you. So I literally kind of had in my mind mentally checked out for the weekend. So it has to happen from every time to time. So literally going out there was kind of eye-opening, right? If you saw the Zoom meeting, I kind of talked about actually doing a ride-along with one of their bath reps and just seeing how thoroughly unimpressive it was, right? He knew the product like crazy. It's just reiterated the whole thing that the product is secondary to the process, right? Because he missed at the end of it. They got I want to think about it. There was no urgency built. And I said, it's like going out, if you don't need a pair of shoes, but you want a pair of shoes and you look at the price tag and you might kind of talk yourself out of it because you might not need it. But if you got a hole or you're about to basically, your pair of shoes about to lapse, you're worried that what might happen or fear of loss might set in through there, I'll give you a little more reason, right? He had no urgency built in that entire presentation, right? Nothing. And you could even touch on the drywall on the very bottom of it. You can see it was kind of soft. But again, there's nothing about talking about what's festering, what's going back maybe behind the walls, right? What potential challenge you keep going, how that's a wet rag and it keeps happening. Then it could continue going every single day, and wet always finds its way to dry, right? So there's a lot of cool things in there that he wasn't going through. And he asked me when I walked in, he had been doing it about 10 months. But the thing that I noticed is they weren't training on process at all. It was all product. So therefore, when he got to the product, he went out. He did okay about talking about the product. I mean, I really didn't have too many critiques except for what he was not doing about getting it back into the shower, holding the panels up there, showing what the difference of colors, things like that would be. But you ended up getting into that part I was directing and moving them towards, but there was no commitments, right? And I just reiterated to me how important the commitments are and how if you miss one or even 2 of them, it really becomes a point of the difference you making or not making a sale, especially in a scenario where they know they need to get something done, they just don't know how soon, right? And that's where I'll give you guys a hats off. Actually, our proximity close for the month right now is at 30%. So, hats off to you guys. That's great. Events is like 27, but I think that number will pick up like crazy, especially since the fair stuff's picking back up. But you look at this guy going through it, he didn't get a need commitment that they agree that, I always live in bathrooms that it sounds like to me, it's not a matter of if you're going to get something done. It's just a matter of when it comes time, but you're going to have to get something, right? So it seems like to me, it's more about when it's affordable. Is that correct? Yeah. But without a doubt, we agree this needs to be replaced, correct? Yes. So getting into that whole mix, Then he went to the company, and the company was him verbal vomiting a few words, not showing any detail, not showing any third-party evidence, no proof onto it. Just talking about DreamStyle has been in business 30 years, just odds and ends, privately held company, blah, 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 and then pretty much was done. And then I think he did that for me, not even for them. And then literally, he went to the product commitment. He went to the product through there, got them set in on one product. And this is where I show you how it relates a lot to our business too. He had them set in on one product and taking them down the path with one product. And then when it came down towards almost to get to the end of it, he introduced another product line in the mix. So he had one product line. They asked, well, what's the difference between that product? Well, that's about 30% cheaper than this product line. And I'm like, well, that's a kiss of death. That was stupid. Why would you do that, right? So the Kohler system, which was gorgeous, right? And then he brought in a bath wrap system in there, which had a little bit of challenges into it. And so one was 30% less than the other, but they liked both of them equally. So he looked at what they liked equally. It literally came down at the end of it to indecision because they couldn't decide which one they wanted to. And they said that they already had a bid for tile, which he didn't peg out to the end. So there was aspects in there where he put his own foot in his mouth, right? He created indecision based on his own process because they fell in love with the one panel. He should have just left the rest of it in the bag, not broke it back out. Then he spent another 15 minutes talking about that other product line and everything it's going to do for him. And then literally when it came down the end of it, he didn't pre-close. He didn't get his commitment to the product, right? Commitment to resolution. It sounds like to me, John and Mary, with the batch system we looked at through here, it did take care of all the problems you're calling us out to take care of, not to mention, the things that we found in the inspection that are important. We want to build the tub out. We want to do all these different things into here. There's anything else that we didn't take care of in the bathroom that you want us to take care of? No. Basically, so it sounds like to me when it comes time, this is not only the design, colors, choices, and the bath system and the extension we need to have inside that. Not to mention the green board, everything we're putting around there, how we're going to waterproof it all. Basically, that's going to take care of all the problems you called me out for today. And as far as design, colors, and choices, everything else you're looking for? No. Just like we see on the Windows side, right? He missed all that. Then at the end of it, there was no pre-close. So I didn't ask, is there anything besides price agreement going to keep us moving forward today? And at the end of it, when he says they got to think about it, I shut my mouth. I'm like, dude, you screwed this whole pooch, man. You don't earn this business. You didn't earn it. You didn't earn it. You fell all over your own foot, right? So because for me to go in there at that point, because of what we did, and by the way, he didn't explain the initial visit discount in the beginning. He waited to the end. And he did it after he wrote 8 prices on a piece of paper. He wrote the MSRP, 1-year price. He wrote the discount, wrote basically the after discount price. He wrote the $1,000 for the initial visit saving, and then he wrote basically the cash price down below it. So he had 8 different prices written out, and he didn't even have a single payment written out. So he kept going right to the price, right to the price, right to the price, right to the price. And I sat there, I looked at it, I almost wanted to put my hand, I wanted to crawl underneath the table, it was so bad. I was sitting there going, oh my God, he ran his own foot. He put his own foot in his own mouth, and he moves himself so far away from the business, he didn't deserve it. And to the point where I'm not even going to open my mouth to even help the guy, because in my mind, he might have done a good job explaining the product, but you can read that out of a brochure. There was nothing that made him a true design consultant, a true professional, and then created any urgency and even earned that business. He didn't earn it. Even though he felt like he did a good job on the product, at the end of it, we're driving away, and I shook the people's hand, and they were super nice. It was an order. We walked away from it. And what I was thinking when I went back into there, I was like, how do I tell this guy he sucks? I was thinking on the way home, because if somebody doesn't tell him, he's going to think he's good, and he's missing all kinds of money on the table, right? So I drove by and I said, hey, can I share something with you? I had to drop me off from the Starbucks so I could have an Uber pick me up, take me to the airport. But I want to see an appointment, but I had to go see an install and an appointment, and then basically I had to jump to the airport. But on the way there, he's a pretty good guy, but I walk in, right, and he's wearing literally like shorts with like athletic shoes, and they basically like a, what do you call it, polo shirt. I'm sitting there, when I walked in, I was like, whoa. I was taken back. I get it to Arizona, it's hot, but I mean, it's still, he looked like a toolbox, to be honest with you. Not a representation. So if I catch you out on an appointment, you're doing that, you're in big freaking trouble. Number two, what it showed me is that's the competition we go against in our industry. They do that exact thing, right? Zero training, zero process, zero origin. They're all they do is they talk about the product, right? There was no condition, there was no environment, there was nothing in there that created urgency. They didn't own the commitment. You know, we talk about getting a commitment and owning a commitment, right? If you own it, you will feel, if somebody owns a commitment, or let's say you own a commitment on something, you'll feel a paradigm shift. It's not about just saying it. You'll feel a paradigm shift, like it almost makes you feel sick to your stomach it's not taken care of. It almost makes you feel sick to your stomach that you put it off that long. It's almost like a guilt-stricken thing that's causing you to want to get that taken care of in the soonest time period. It's like if your wife tells you to go get milk from the store, and basically you go to the store and you come back and you forgot the very one thing she asked you for, but you got everything else. You're like, oh shit, I'll go get it right now. I'll go get it right now. Story of my life. But I'm telling you is that guilt, that guilt, right? Basically gets to you to where you want to do something about it because you know you screwed up, right? The same type of thing in the house. A lot of people don't know what they don't know. So you talk about windows or energy efficiency or things. A lot of people don't realize they're already paying for their windows. A lot of people don't realize they're paying for their doors. A lot of people don't realize the damages and problems that happen. When wet finds its way to dry, that all these things can happen. And if we're not pointing out and making them own it, we're not getting the basic commitments, right? And doing the basic blocking and tackling stuff, and we're missing that, then we're no better than that dude that I watched on, we're no better than the guy I watched on basically, last week. Let me tell you, that was horrible. I said, I hope to God none of our guys are going in and doing that exact thing, because no wonder we wouldn't sell. Because that, we didn't earn it. We just were checking the box depending on his personality, which is an okay personality, but when you miss that many technical things, it's crazy. I was talking this morning with my buddy Jim Pruitt. He took over, he's working for the Pella in Des Moines, Iowa now. And he now just came ranked in the top 25 after his third month. So he's, his RPA, his basically closing percentage is, I think, like 48%. His revenue per lead, $6,500. His, basically, all his little terminals didn't show his average selling it, but I looked at the numbers this morning. I kind of laughed because a guy named Barry Blue, which is a guy used to scream at me when I was very first a manager at Pacesetter way back in the day. He's like ranked number 8. Basically you got Jim's up there in the top 25. You got a lot of these old guys that I used to work with back in the day are all ranked in that top 25 area. And I said, wow. I'm like, wow, that's funny. And then I see the people I train are like 26, 28, 30 down through there. I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, wow, that's blistered. Oh, it's kind of cool to see the difference. I was talking to Jim this morning. He goes, I said, what are you doing over there? He goes, well, what I did, buddy, is I took the product and I went and learned everything about the product I felt about features and benefits of it, and I made that the very first thing I do. Then I figured out I can relate that to what people are dealing with in the house, which is the pain, and then I roll it right back into it, make me the only reason that they can take care of the problem on the house, just like we were taught back in the old day, right? Problem, solution, and I talk about the other things that can happen. He goes, for instance, I don't even sell the final product because I think it's a worthless piece of shit. He says, the reason why I don't sell it is I talk about the heat distortion of the sun, right? Talk about 5Rex on the bottom. I said, well, tell me 1 or 2, 3. Tell me the top 3 things you talk about. Because on the bottom, where the check rail goes, where the meeting rails are, or basically the 2 weep holes are, because I talk about why Duracast is so important there. I said, so you call it Duracast? He goes, yeah, I don't call it. Everyone else in the house calls it fiberglass. I call it Duracast. I said, well, good. I said, actually, we do the same thing. He goes, yeah, because I talked about basically when you take a window, especially of any distance or size, we get that sun beating on it. You talked about way back in the day, 87 degrees. Basically is 134 degrees of direct sunlight, so we talk about warming, right? So what happens is the heat, and you talk about the 2 sashes set right there in the middle of that frame. The 2 weep holes are on the outside, so if the sashes are sitting there in the middle, that's going to put all the weight right there. So it's going to cause that frame to start to bump. And then what happens is we create almost like a puddle effect that happens in the middle when we put a lot of windows in there, which means all that water sets down there in the middle of the track and can't fully get out. So one of the cool things we love about the Duracast is, number 1, it's a sleek low profile, but number 2, the way they weave the net makes it so strong so that bottom meeting rail is allowing that water to shed and portray out the same exact way as it did before, and make sure that, it's pushing the water away from the house, not inviting it and trapping it in. He said, so, because as you said earlier, price doesn't freaking matter, because it matters about what they're getting back in the benefit of. I'm like, great, what else do you talk about? Talk about the powder coated finish. About basically most fiberglass in the industry, typically, if you do find it, is basically going to be have a vinyl coating on the outside, which eventually the two materials will work apart with expansion traction. They're going to start to pull and flake apart. Show pictures. Because one thing I've done, and you taught me a long time ago, Dustin, when I worked for Champion, is to show pictures of bad jobs like crazy. Because you show all these pictures of bad jobs, and you talk about the things that they're going to happen or the challenges they might be running into. And then we talk about what difference and how we're different than what those pictures are going to get them inside the house with. He goes, it's a dream. It makes it so easy at the end of it that price isn't an issue. I said, well, what's the third thing? He goes, glass demo, lady. He goes, glass demo. Because I get that glass demo out, and I show it based on what they currently have. And then I talk about energy savings, and then I do my ROI on them. He goes, like butter. It's like taking to the bank every single time. He says, but that inspection sets it all up. So, again, nothing different than we talk about. It was so nice to hear. I said, what do you do when leads are down? He goes, oh, yeah, they're down 40% across everywhere in the country right now. He said, so when you look at it, where leads are down, I said, well, what are you doing to make a difference? He says, well, number one, every house I don't sell, is I drop 15 flyers. I don't knock on the doors. I drop 15 flyers of my card around there on every single house I walk up to, and whether I sell it or not. And then if I sell it, I do the Dustin Jimmy thing. I knock on the 5 neighbors around the house, tell them we're doing some work for one of the neighbors in the house, tell them if we park our trucks in front of the house, or if there's anything that they need or any labor inconvenience them, here's my card. Make sure you call me if you need my assistance on anything. By the way, would it be okay if I stop by after the install and just make sure to see how you like the project? Then he sets himself up to go back again, right? He's been literally working for Pella for 3 months. Guess how many self-gens he has? 9. So 9 true self-gens, not ARCs going back, not add-ons. Referrals and canvas sales has got 9. Okay? That's basically better than our whole office did last month. The other thing he's doing is he's taking basically customers that are no longer taken by another employee, somebody that moved on in the company, and he's sitting there and calling through files and finding unkept business. People that just started with doors or did some windows and didn't do doors. And they're going in there and finding all that business, and he's sitting there networking inside of it, trying to find a way to make things happen. Jim in Des Moines, Iowa, did $200,000 his first month, $230 his second month, and in his third month, he did basically another $215. So he's averaging over $200,000 on an average of 20, 25 leads. So you look at it, he's doing a very good job with what he has. And if he created 9 in there, think about, so just taking on 3 average a month, really he's getting about 22 leads a month. And he's doing the rest of basically what he's adding on top. I love hearing that this morning. It's like a breath of fresh air. And I was like, here, I was like, boom, you're right, baby. This is what we did back in the day when we didn't have anything. We go knock on doors, figure out a way to make it happen. So again, I thought I'd share that story with you that, sometimes we make it harder than it has to be rather than just simplifying it, right? Take the tools you're given and learn it and own it. And then you're going to find that it's going to make everything else easier. All right. Well, that's it. First little bit, I forgot to put the finance percentage down. 61% is the finance percentage. 235, 672, 34.4% close, 11,222 base the average sell, 2510 RPL, 5% rescission. Now, RPL is low because in my mind, we're going at what the lead says. We're selling what the lead says. We had this problem last year too, where it said 1 or 2 windows on there or 3 windows, and then we're going in and selling exactly what the lead says on it, right? Had a lot of 1 window orders, 2 window orders, that type of thing, 3 window orders. So I mean, it's not like we're not selling, we're just not getting into it. Remember, we get into that aspect always on a 1 or 2 window lead, especially if it's in the back or on the side, the front of the house. Have them walk outside and look at that side of the home and talk about what the differences are going to look like when you replace your windows, right? Unless they're going to do a full frame on those 2 windows and put the fiberglass framing on it, or basically the Duracast framing, that's the only thing they're going to get anywhere close to matching what they currently have. But that's something in your arsenal that no one else has either. Then we can keep that in there and keep that profile pretty darn close to it. So again, without having to redo the whole house, that's the way we can take advantage of that. So that number right there is going to increase this and this. This number is okay. Again, I think as we keep getting more comfortable, and I'll be the first to tell you that, you know, T's got a lot to work on. I've been working with him a whole bunch. He's on our proximity side. Matter of fact, I banned him from going to Temecula. So therefore, you have my permission on those. There's no more next days anymore. I took away next day capability is what I did. Because till they proved to me they got it down pat, and I'm sitting in on the road plays and going through that stuff. The nice thing is you got me going over it, and I'm a crucial bastard when it comes to any of that stuff. So therefore, I'll make sure that I correct any of the challenges. But again, their input, we're closing 30% now, where historically we only closed 22 back in the day. So when you look at basically, we're raising that up. The quality is getting there. Unfortunately, when you got a new staff of a bunch of people out there knocking on doors, you think it's easy, go out there and do it with them. Not very easy. It's humbling too. As you get the door knocked. As a matter of fact, the other day, I'll tell you a funny story. One of the guys knocking on the door, and this guy comes out, you know, buck naked, and like punches one of the proximity guys right in the back of the head. Then he goes back in, puts underwear on, comes back out to the van and tries to basically fight him. I'm like, what the? I heard that story and I about lost it. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think the guy was probably on some drugs or something to that nature, but it definitely made.
Was that in Temecula?
No, what in Temecula?
Isn't that illegal?
There's a longer story to the back end of that where the police came, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's it. So, yeah, that's why I push it. You closed it too. That's if you make me mad, that's where you'll be at that guy's house. God knows what you see on his couch, right? That's it. Basically, Sean is at 54.915, good start. Nick, another good start. You know, 44.45. You know, Mike Pierce and Cynthia are off to a good start too. Cynthia closing percentage 60%. Give that a round of applause. She technically for her demos is closing at 100% of everything she demos, so that's not a bad thing at all. Mr. Sean, Mr. Consistent, 50%. Nice job, man. Nick right up there again, 50%. And we had 6 people at 33, and I wasn't writing them all out, so you know who you are. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So talk about pricing expectations. Today, we were on a conference call, me, Mr. Ed here, I never put that 2 and 2 together, right, Mr. Ed? There you go. Basically, and Scott and basically the production team in Phoenix, you know, Larry is very focused on top line, bottom line. So right now, he's auditing a ton of jobs. So I want to make sure that I say this out loud. Remember, I always tell you, I'm here to protect. So if there's a way to protect, I got to protect. You're paying attention to some of the things I didn't pay attention to before. So we got to make sure if you're missing stuff or not following through, double check, make sure you have it. Number one, custom doors has always been something we always keep on the top of the line. But it's not as big of a deal as it was before. Most of the time we're catching that now and smart enough to look at the ADM and know what's custom and not custom. So that's not it. I just threw that one up there because in the past it was a challenge. Now, not so much. Staining and painting. You know, if you do an architect series, you know, you got to know what comes standard and what's not standard and know when to add staining or painting, especially on patio doors. Hold on, let me finish real quick. And we're going to go through an exercise on this anyways. That I'm going to force you guys after Keith is done to basically price some jobs out so I know that you guys know what you're doing by the time I'm done here today. And we're not basically guesstimating on that. You want to say something really bad, I can tell. So why don't you say it because you're not going to be able to listen to you say it.
Say it, Sean. Just a suggestion, because how many architect series are you selling that aren't stained or painted?
Bingo.
None.
I second that motion.
You guys want me to add painting in the price of it?
Why, I mean,
Why
if
do
you
we
do
have to
10% that are not stained and painted, 90% automatically priced in.
Well, depending on what stain, and like if you want a pre-finished stain or you want us to factory stain it, then if I put the pre-finished stain from the factory in, that's almost double the price of basically the stain if we do it in-house. That's the reason why I didn't do it. Because you can do a pre-finished stain from the factory, that's going to add close to like $700 to it or 600, 500, whatever it is. And then if you do it from, if we locally stain it, then literally that's gonna be,
So what's in the tap order?
Bolt on the local.
Yeah.
Or just make it white on white, anything besides painted white on white, then at least we're not, we have to push a button every time. Like, and if we know it's a stain, then we push a button for a stain.
what, here's the deal.
Local paint prices, and then we can add the factory price if we need to.
So,
Just put it on the end.
What's the pricing in the town? Is it local or is it factory?
well, if you go into miscellaneous would be local. If you do it in the extras on the right, you know, basically where it says pre-stain for factory, that would come from the factory. That's where we touch that one.
Under what?
That's why I give you the choice, because if you,
10 windows. Do it like that. Don't do it under one.
I mean, what is the
What's the difference?
price?
that's the difference between them. Do you guys, so you think added in the miscellaneous items like where we do STV flash and stuff? All right, so you can do factory stain or basically,
Don't do the line item one. Don't do that one.
Yeah.
Do it at the end.
Yeah, the pricing is so all over the place and like changing like all the time. It's hard to keep up with it.
well, that's what I did. We just audited the back end and we changed their pay sheet and pay structure too, to make sure basically it's more in line with what our expectations on the front end. So there's checks and balances, major checks and balances on both sides of it. That's why I want to make sure that we're not missing this stuff. Till the intern, I'll work on getting it. I'll get with a couple of you guys and ask basically your opinion on what it should look like and where you would like it, so it makes it more user friendly. It's about making those adjustments in Leap.
Well, I think too, with staying and painting here locally, that we're keeping our guys busy as well too.
Yeah, but if it comes from the factory done, if you know it's consistent, there's no challenges, there's no headaches, there's no basically, this doesn't match this, it comes from the factory that way. You can act factory accessory trim too, that actually goes with the door, which actually can look pretty nice too.
If you were looking for less problems in your life, get it pre-stained.
Yeah, I agree.
But then,
And then what happens is your money gets to you faster too, because they're not having to go back and stain and paint anything. It could take up to 7 to 10 days later.
Oh, no, they've got to go back and stain 2 times because they jacked something up. They're getting paid with margin too low and asked that anyways.
By the way, if you run into that, shoot me an email immediately if you see something looks out of whack, or like you get your, hold on guys, you look at something on your fee for service looks off, you can ask to get that job audited. And if it's something that comes out that's not your fault, like so you price it or so the back end makes a mistake, then they put that through, you should not be hit on that, okay? And then that's when I want that brought to my attention. Lindsay, by the way, is now going to be, me and Scott talked about and Ed talked about over last week, that Lindsay is going to be the go-to person for payroll, okay? So if you have something that's over and above what Lindsay's capable to do, I'll step in and help, but I primarily do not have time to pay attention to everyone's payroll. I make sure I look at it real quick, send it off to Norma, Norma sends it out, and then Lindsay is going to be answering any questions and communicating with Matt back and forth on that. If it's something you don't feel like after you've addressed off a first email or even a second email back and forth, then bring me into the loop, but do it before Tuesday at noon. Don't wait till Wednesday morning, wait till Tuesday at noon. Some of you guys, and that's one of the reasons why I made that, I screamed and hollered to make that, because I don't want you guys ever to feel like you're fighting for your money. And that's not something I want to have done. Now, let me be honest with you. If it's something that you're trying to bring up from a year ago, the likelihood that's going to get open and resolved, probably not high. You need to let me know that that's the case, which I know on a couple of you guys, and then I need to try to find some way to make it up to you, okay? Because opening up and bringing something a year past when you're in 2019, bringing something out in 2018, unless that job's still hanging around, is not very likely to get done, okay? Because they'd have to open the books, figure out the jobs, and that job's already closed out. So that's something I'm going to share with you. If you're frustrated by it, let me know. I'll find a way to make it up to you, okay? Modification expense. Making sure, again, we know that structural engineering does not, hold on, Mike, you're not leaving yet. Structural engineering, wait, you sit down until I'm done. We're making sure everybody hears this. There's no potty breaks. So structural engineering and modifications have to be done on the same thing. Structural engineering is just paying for our structural engineer and our architect and our permitting. That's what that price is in there for. Those three tags right there are a lot of freaking money. Out to start, when I first started here, I fought that as hard as I could fight anything in the world because I didn't believe at all that a structural engineer could cost that much coming from the Midwest, but I promise you it does. It's expensive as hell. Just the structural engineer costs anywhere from $1,800 up to basically sometimes $5,000, depending on how crazy the scenario is. Not to mention, then you have the architect to go out through there. So we send him out on the measure also to make sure he's giving the right information to the engineer, so it's not costing us even more money and time on that resource. We're trying to prep it so he gets through that engineering faster than it was before. Okay. Then permitting can cost anywhere, depending on what municipality you're in, from a couple $100 to even up to $1,500 per permit. So it depends on how hard the permits and what happens in that aspect. That make sense? So again, then when you do a widened opening up to 8 foot, that includes at that point your electrical, that includes your framing, your stucco, your drywall, any basically extra fasteners, things like that have to be put in there. The only thing that does not cover is if we have to get into shear wall, but that's written right in your little expectation sheet, talking about, unforeseen circumstances. And a shear wall, how you know, is the closer you get to a corner. So if I'm taking a window, let's say it's this big, from here to here, and I'm gonna widen it up, and I'm gonna try to take this all the way to this wall, not gonna work. Because I need to leave room for shearing. So that way it basically protects that corner from racking and bending off. I need to buy the wall, probably leave at least 2 to 3 foot over there on the side of it to make sure I'm leaving room for shearing. Okay? Because the architects and engineers are getting really strong and really detailed about shear walls. And that just means how they stabilize the corner in there, making sure it's not going to twist or get unwrapped. Okay? So again, the reason I did the one price for the up to 8 foot is because I got sick of us missing the light outside and the switch outside and basically moving electric. And then now we're farting and piddling around for $700, $800, $900, $1,000, and you're losing your fee for service on stupid stuff like that.
So
That's why I'm saying
You don't need to have a
It
light.
does now include the electrical. and
that includes a widened opening. A widened opening includes everything. You don't have to worry
I
about.
think this was like kind of what the confusion was, because we were talking, like, the prices have gone up for this stuff, like 400% in the last 5 months, and we kind of stayed ahead of it. Like a couple months ago, the structural engineering included the one open, and then it didn't, in which I get, makes sense to me. I can charge whatever you tell me to charge, but like staying in front of it, like, the electrical. Like,
I can say there'll be a no indefinite change on this moving forward. Okay. So structural engineering is one charge. That is just to get us approved to do the work.
So you
Okay.
say everything is everything we paint?
Let me explain that to you. That's painting. That's basically the stucco. That's the finishing. That's everything you'd have to charge a la carte before.
Painting,
Okay. And made sure that we're taking, because when they do a modification, they're not just taking it to the side of the window, right? It has to go about 3 foot out so they can tie the paper in and basically reflash. They got to rewire, restucco, refinish coat, repaint, do all that stuff, and then basically re-drywall and all that stuff on the inside and the outside, and then plus tie it in and try to paint it to match. And what happens is sometimes they want us to paint the whole freaking wall because we can't get it to match as close as possible, which now, thanks to the idea Jeremy had, where we're having to sign off on the paint. But still, sometimes that doesn't even work. Like, well, I'm not painting, it looks off still. So you got to do what's making the customer happy so we don't get blasted on social media. So therefore, that's why we're trying to make sure that in that aspect we're covered, so we never have to come back and say, hey, let's go get more money for this, go get more money for that. The only way I come into is if shear wall were to come into place, and just realize the closer you get to that wall, the corner of the house, the more likelihood there's going to be shear wall. So we got to know what the difference is between them.
So what's a good general rule of thumb for that?
So I would say if you're anything within 5 feet from that wall, more than likely you're going to need shear wall.
So then,
What would you say? And actually, yeah.
2-story,
Yeah.
always.
So if it's 2 stories, so you got a story on top of the story, and you're going into that. So basically, you're going to modify an opening when there's a second story on top of it. You're saying almost always shear wall. Yeah.
What are we charging for that?
Right.
Or-
So do we just leave the space there and that'll cover the shear wall, or do we have to add a modification for that?
Well, the shear wall won't be determined until we get it back from the engineer. So the engineer will tell us, and then sometimes we can just,
Yeah, if you
Pack it in?
Or,
sometimes we,
you know, at $2,000 a foot, should work.
what's that?
If you're short to get up 3 feet, but you charge them for 3 feet of like a 5-volt door, that
Yeah.
should offset.
Yeah, well, like there was like one where the structural engineer came in because of shear wall, and we had a 16-foot opening because it was a little too close to like one of the retaining walls on it, that we had to move it into 14-foot, right? So there's changes that happen on the engineering aspect that we don't know, that sometimes that extra 2 foot can come into play where it might offset shear wall. So you never know. Yeah.
So what would be just, you know, and obviously it's gonna be an unknown cost, but just to give our customers expectations of, if we do run into shear wall, it could run how much per linear foot?
I think at that point when we do shear wall, it's like a pass through. So whatever just the cost of that. Sometimes they can open it up and they put anchors inside of it. There's basically like Simpson ties or whatever they do. Then sometimes they got to plywood the corners off. It just depends. We don't know. So that's why once we get it back from the engineering plan, know what those plans are telling us we have to do, then that's when we know what the cost is.
Minimum walls, 2 foot.
Yeah.
At what point do we know? At what point do we know that like our job and our sale is safe and like you're not coming back to us? Now, in fact, you know, 2 months later, you know, like when we pass it off.
Well, generally after HOA, on a normal job, it's after HOA, it's good. Now, before, one of the things that came to light is they were site checking and then sitting in the HOA and they weren't checking it again, right? Till they got on HOA. So that was creating some oopses and uh-ohs that we weren't catching in the beginning, which was making it kind of embarrassing to go back, right? So therefore, now that's stopped. They are pre-siting and then checking everything to make sure it's perfect before basically it gets set in that HOA bin. So, you know, then of course it's got to get approved by HOA. So as much involvement as you guys want in that to help Jessica on that side of it, I would, if it were my money, I would be protecting that every way I could, okay? The second thing is, once it gets past the engineering, sometimes a structural engineer, which sometimes can take, 4 weeks from the time it's submitted to get it through there. But again, they have to sometimes have the HOA submit that they okay the approval, which could take sometimes 30 days. And then we have to submit it to the engineer, which can take another 4 weeks. So sometimes that's basically, you're at almost 7 weeks right through there before we've even ordered anything. So once it gets back through HOA or engineering, then we're hitting the order button. From this point on, though, you should see if there's any problems after you sell a job, because before in LEAP, we figured the form out that actually prints out, that tells the full detail on everything. So it shows us what you charged on everything. This is where some of this stuff is coming to light now. So basically, where it shows you what you charged on everything on through there, so they can literally reference back through what was sold, what was inspected, and then they fill out what they call a recommended labor sheet. Now, that labor sheet is what they project they're going to pay the project manager, thanks to me, that's project what they're going to pay on the project, right? So therefore, they can cost that job out before we even put a penny onto it. And it's the project manager's job and responsibility to manage that project to that budget. Right? And if it goes over that budget, it's his butt. The reason it goes over the budget, if it was costed out appropriately and there's unforeseen stuff, you're not going to get hit on that. But if it's unforeseen, if you forgot to charge or didn't charge for it, that's a whole different set of ballgame, or charged the wrong price, I can't help. But what I'm saying is right now we need to make sure we understand the differences. So let me explain that. Modification widen opening to 8 feet. Includes everything that has to happen on 8 feet. That's your header, that's the drywall, that's the stucco, that's the paper, that's the paint, that's everything that has to be taken care of there, except for the shear wall.
What about lowering the opening?
I'm not there yet. Let me finish one thing before I get to another.
Before you finish, can you this button used to be in our old one, created opening. So here's your choices, because I know you're not in this.
Wait. Let's not go there yet. Let me finish one thing before we get sidetracked on another. Okay? I want to finish one thing before I get sidetracked on another. Problem is, if you don't let me finish, everything's going to get jumbled and everybody's going to get confused. So I don't care about a create an opening yet. Right now, we're talking about widening an opening to 8 feet. Okay? Widening an opening to 8 feet. The key word is 8 feet. Enlarge opening to 8 feet. Okay? So that's going to include everything in that modification up to 8 feet, right? Then if it's over 8 feet, there's a per foot charge, right? As there's always been. I think it's like 200 and something per foot, basically that you add on per foot after that. That includes any of the extras. That includes your header, your basically just moving out the extra cost to the outside of it. That's where we're adding that extra bit. So don't forget up to 8 feet or to 8 feet, and then anything over 8 feet. Those are two different charges. And don't just charge the over 8 feet and then charge that by basically how much into it unless you have my permission because it's a weird situation. Okay? If you run into one where you have, let's say you've got multiple openings on the same house, you got 6 of them and they want all 6 of them to match, then that's when you'll call in for special pricing. You'll send pictures of the wall and basically measurements of everything and what you're trying to accomplish. And then Scott and I and Vinny will sit down and figure out what the appropriate cost would be for that special circumstance. Okay? Don't think we're not as interested in gaining the business as you are. We want every bit of business we can get. But again, we just got to make sure that our margins stay in line to protect you, protect the company, and basically protect the profit margin so we can pay our lease and pay for advertising and all that other fun stuff. Yes.
So in a situation like that, we can't really price it on the spot if you were getting you and Vinny and Scott involved.
No, you actually can. You put us in a text stream.
Just put it all together.
Yeah, put us all 3 in a text stream. And then if I see that thing coming through and I see you're in the house, I'll blow the hell out of somebody on the phone back behind to make sure they're giving us an answer.
One really quick thing, just to go back to the staining and painting real quick. On the Architect series, there's no option for painting, it's only stain. Just FYI, so like when you sell something, you have to put in there that it's stained a certain color. You can't actually put the paint.
It says paint stain, right?
It doesn't, it just says stain.
It just says paint.
All right.
Well, you
Yeah.
can, and I don't know.
Just charge it, if it's factory finished, it's a factory finish stain is what it is. So basically, if not, it'll come primered and then we would paint that. So you just add that in the miscellaneous tab, okay? So I'm really, okay, next. Then we'll go to create an opening after I talk about modify an opening, right? So basically, next thing is a cut down. If we do a cut down, that's still $11.05. That price hadn't changed from before,
So
right?
changing that window to a door is $1,105.
That's $11.05 to cut it down.
With no electric.
With no electric. You would have to add electric on that, okay? And there's the reason why is there might be sometimes you run into a bony wall where you're cutting down or something that you don't need to move. So I put the electric charge in there. It's gonna be $760 or whatever the cost is extra on top of that. It might not be.
Well, you gotta put a light out there too.
Right, so $760 charger. You have to charge your electric package if there's electric in the wall. And how do you tell? Look and see where the plugs are. If there's a plug here and a plug here, we're good. You know, a lot of times there's gotta be electric in it, but there might be certain circumstances that it's not. You know. All right, so again, if you're lowering an opening, that's gonna be the $11.05 plus your electric charge, okay? But that $11.05 will take care of your stucco, your paint, that other aspect.
When Vinny was in here 2 weeks ago, he said that lower opening for a door included.
I'm telling you right now, it doesn't. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't. Lower open, we can fight that fight on a pass one, but I'm telling you today, knowing what I know, basically setting down and going back through all the pricing aspects, it does not include electric. The widen opening does, but the lower opening does not.
Then you said if there's an outlet on either side, not moving an outlet, but actually, we think that there's a wire running through there, we do the electric charge.
Safe to throw it in there. You know, at that time, $500 is not gonna be the difference between you and the business.
And you have to put a switch and a light. in the door.
No, lower.
So what about jobs that were sold between Vinny was in here and told us the other thing? And
I got your back. I do remember him saying it. But from this point on today, moving forward, make a note, from this point on, moving forward, we need to basically charge for that electric on top of basically the lower opening. Okay? So then you're like $1,700 to modify the whole opening. So it's not that bad. Or
Just to
$1,800.
be clear, enlarge opening does not include lower opening. Those are separate.
That's one, you don't have to do lower opening and widen opening. That just, all you do is widen opening. You don't have to lower an opening and widen an opening. Because you're,
So we're going sideways, turning an 8-foot opening into a 12-foot opening. for charging.
and it doesn't matter if it's a window or a door, it's,
Right.
it's that price.
So we'll charge. up to
The
8.
only thing you gotta pay attention to, hold on a second. The one thing you gotta pay attention to that, you know, from the window side of it, we might not be thinking of, if I'm having a door where there is no door, I need to pay attention to what's to the outside. Because if I'm pulling a permit, then there has to be a landing. You know, I think it's like 3x4 landing around the outside of it. Then we have to step outside on a landing for you to go down. So whether they're buying paver stones or basically we're working on something to build a little stoop or concrete or build a little small basically wood deck structure down through there, a landing. There's something that's got to be done outside there. We won't be able to pass permit. So pay attention when you're doing that. What's to the outside of that door? Again, we want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for a headache.
That's as long as it's just not like dirt or earth. I mean, if there's like a patio there, it's just a small step down then.
They can put some retaining blocks up just for the inspector, doesn't really matter.
But we're not pulling permit on this, right?
You modify, a lot of times on a lower opening, unless we're basically doing, most time we can get away, most time on lowering, on basically the widened openings.
If we were making that window into the door, there's no permit.
It depends on what else is going on in the house. If you're doing SD reflash around the entire house, and you're gonna be doing around the front of the house too, then more than likely they're gonna have to pull a permit, which means they would have to make the adjustment for the stoop. But again, just, if you're not sure, ask questions. I'd rather ask questions up front, and I'll tell you the truth, and then basically so that way we can be prepared for it. I'm not trying to create a bunch of more headache, but I'm just trying to make sure, again, I've kind of laid off the construction stuff for a while and focused on the sell stuff. Now we need to kind of pay attention to that stuff, because sometimes we're putting our back end people in a little nightmare with what we're getting them into. So I want to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible. Remember, I would say I never want it to be sales fault. I like to always put the blame on the back end. And I know we should be one big team, but I still like to put the blame back there, not up front. So basically, when we talk about any of those stuff that needs to happen as far as the stoop, we look at it, it makes sense. If you're going to walk out that door and you're going to break your ankle stepping down onto it, probably not safe, right? Think about how far it is from a pool too, right? If you walk out of the pool there and they're trying to walk to a pool, you know, basically there's a window, you're modifying a window or anything, generally anything 6 feet from a pool, like the edge of a pool, is basically got to be tempered too. So you look at, or 5 foot, excuse me.
What is that step off requirement, like coming out of the door? What's
I think it's supposed to be level. And then basically your first step down, your riser is going to be 7.5. Yeah, 7 inches, 7.5, depends
So as
on.
long as the patio is within 7 inches, or you have to have a landing going out?
Do you know California? Because then, can they step down 7.5 from the door? Okay, so 7.5
So as long as
inches.
it's 7.5, but they don't need it.
Yeah,
So are we still not willing to do the stoop, to pour the concrete?
we would prefer not to. For the right amount of money, we'll work something out, but we prefer not to. When you get into concrete work, you got to rebar stuff. If there's other concrete there, you got to basically saw cut around. You got to jackhammer it up. Then you got to put basically your stone down. You got to rebar it in. It's a pain in the butt. So that's why I'm saying the paver stones. It's like I keep saying paver stones. Basically, that's the easiest way to get it in. So, and then I always say, put the paver stones down. Then if you do any extra landscaping, any things like that, that gives you plenty of time to think about what you want to do with that area without having to make a definite decision and then get us to the permitting process. That's the beautiful thing where you don't have to deal with frost like you do in the Midwest, because sometimes you got to dig piers down 42 inches. Here, it's not that big of a deal.
So, now, if it's missed on the sales side, is operations going to tell them that?
They're designed to catch any headaches or uh-ohs, like not trying to open their mouth about dumb stuff they shouldn't open their mouth up. But if it's going to prevent us from collecting the job at the end, that's their job, right? Which is why that's why that report is out now, that 72-hour report. If you notice, there's a report that comes out, if your name's on it, says you need to have rectified in 72 hours. That's because we're trying to get stuff ordered as fast as possible. So it doesn't hold your money up, doesn't hold our money up, because the finance company does not release the money that you get paid with, that we get paid with, until after basically it's ordered. So we have to order it. Once we order it, that releases the funds that clears your money up, clears our money up to pull that first half, which is why we're all about making sure it happens, not to mention decreasing production times and that type of aspects too. If you're going to create an opening, JC, use the widen opening charge.
Enlarge it.
There's
Or
no-
enlarge opening, I'm sorry. Enlarge opening 8 feet, up to 8 feet. Just use the enlarge opening to 8 feet and in the notes put create opening. And then what you do is you take a picture and you draw on the picture where you want it and then measure it out the sidewalls. Like so, sometimes we create an opening, we just take a picture of a blank wall, right? Some of you are really good and you guys will draw like a little arrow that measures out like 12 inches from this wall and basically, 36 inches from this wall, and then we're going up to 80 inches. That helps out dramatically. And then from the outside, giving us those focal points too, just allowing us to see everything that's going on to that project so there's no questions about it, right? Yeah.
So, I mean, we're gonna put a triple casement on that wall right there.
Uh-huh.
That is $12,000 at grade. You gotta pull a permit and do the grade opening.
Yeah.
So it's 12 grand plus the cost.
Yes. Yep. Unfortunately, it's the society that California's put us in to make sure we're following that same protocol. I was talking to Wayno, they're the same exact thing, if not more expensive over there. So they're doing the same thing. You can't get away from it. It's the protocol of what it takes, unfortunately. The crazy thing about California is they force you to engineer the entire house, not just the wall. Like when you have to do the whole house, that's what makes the plan so freaking expensive. And if you didn't want to make commission on it, and we did it as a pass-through cost, that would bring that cost down dramatically. But if you want to make a fee for service on it, then literally you gotta charge what we charge for it, or literally you're not going to get fee for service on it. So that's where it comes to the mix. If we use it as a pass-through cost, then we wouldn't have to charge what we charge for it. But again, we got to make sure that we're getting the money for it.
Yeah, but are we still working on the stock plans?
Yes. It's just we have to get what happens is when you take that down to get approval through all the municipalities, it takes about 60 days for them to go through, review the plans, figure out where they get them from. Ed's got his buddy that's got the California stamp on there, which will stamp the generic plans, which is why that it's a good idea to send over, the pictures when you're in a house of what you're doing. If you think that might look really expensive for what you're trying to do, then send the pictures over. And then I'll shoot them to Vinny. I'll sometimes put Ed on it if I think if it basically comes into play. And then before I take Scott and Vinny's word for it, I call Ed and ask Ed what he thinks. And then I take Ed's word over Scott and Vinny's. I'm a sales guy. We play the game. Yeah.
Just kind of piggyback on what Ryan was saying. Can we just not take those? Is that could be something that we don't do?
What's that?
Like if somebody just has a wall and they want to put like a casement window in there, I mean, we know it's going to be like $12,000 cost. I mean, how many of those projects do we get?
Not that many.
Can we just say, hey, look, we don't do that. We don't.
Why wouldn't you just try
He's
What I tell the people when I go out and I do that, and they want one sliding window, I say, what else? Imagine your house like in 5 or 10 years from now, what else would you do? Because they have to do engineering on the whole thing. So I say, get creative. How about these? Would you like to do, because they're gonna do the whole thing, right? If we engineer it, even if they don't do that project, they're paying one engineering cost, correct? So why not imagine what it would be like, even if you can't do it now, and have it all engineered and then bring it back? Because that's where, when it comes down to price for one window, honestly, we're probably not gonna get it.
I used to talk people out of doing engineering. Like when they wanted it, I'd lead them onto it and I'd show an either or. So here's what happens if we basically go back in the same footprint. Here's what happens if we go into it. Because to get somebody to call, I think I can name on this hand right here in the last 2 years how many houses we've been out to just to create an opening in a wall for nothing. And literally there's about 3 of you that continue to run into it. A lot of the rest of them don't. So a lot of them is widen openings, doing things like that where they're really set on it. And if they're set on it, they're prepared that cost is going to be high. But just to call you out to cut a hole in a wall, it doesn't happen that often. That's not enough to even have a conversation about it. That makes sense. We don't want to spend any neurological information on that.
But
Yeah.
just to clarify what you said, even if it's like 10 windows, it's still one structural engineer?
Yeah, it's one per job. Yeah. one per job. They got to draw the plans out regardless. So if they ever wanted to do like where they wanted to, cut in a door in the back and they can't get to it now, at least they'll have the plans for when it does come time.
How long are those plans good for? Like, let's say they want to do this, but maybe in a couple of years they want to do something else. Can they still use those plans?
I think so. I don't know. Ed, do you know how long the plans are good for once the plans are put into play?
Usually 1
1 year?
1 year.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
I think at that point, if you already have the plan set, you might be able to take them, which would give them a major reduction if they thought they were going to, if they already had the plans. You can try anything. All right. Other things. So again, staining, painting, that's where we've been missing a lot. And then the modifications, understanding that it's not just the structural engineering charges, that plus basically your modification. I just got to make sure you guys know that. So that way I get into it. And yes, I'm completely aware it's 16 grand before you can put a product in there. 100% aware. I fought it every way I could possibly fight it. And then once they put all the invoices in front of me, I couldn't fight it. So it just basically came down to what it was doing. That's why we're trying to reduce costs. Any way we can reduce cost on labor, reduce cost on, not really materials, you can really reduce cost of materials, but labor aspect onto it and figure out one way to make it. And my biggest deal was protecting you guys so you didn't have to overthink it in the house. Because if you have to overthink it, you spend 15 minutes pricing out a job, you just lost your momentum. Rather than hitting boom, boom, and you've already got it done. Now you can focus on the selling aspect and the pain and urgency, creation, building your slice of life and your picture through there, not focused on pricing. It's already hard enough to price stuff out. Might as well basically not make it any harder and have to pick out a la carte, and then having to miss something. And then you miss $300-400 and it takes you under green line, which is stupid. So again, I don't want that to happen. I'd rather you guys be covered. Just trust me. If you're gonna sell it, basically they love you and trust you. The difference between that extra cost and not sometimes might move you away from it, but also might prevent anything stupid from happening about being underbid or having the aspects. Problem was before, the way we were costed out, it was beautiful. That's why customers were begging at the waking need to basically come and do structural engineering with us because we were underpriced like crazy. So we were eating our lunch on that. That's why I asked you guys in a couple meetings ago, or like half a year ago, whenever it was when we made the change, February, March. And I said, you guys want to make a fee for service on it or not? You want to do it as a pass through or you want to make a fee for service? Everybody said, I want to make a fee for service. Okay. And I had to figure that into basically the costing of it. So that is what it is. Any more questions on that? All right. After Keith's done, then we'll go through and do a couple scenarios, just make sure we have clarity and understand it. And we'll go from there. Bathroom division coming soon. Okay.
Does that mean we can go to the bathroom now?
What's that? If you're not going to be part of the bathroom, you should go to the bathroom. So again, the safety tub aspect and then literally the bathroom aspect onto it. If there's anybody in here that's interested in basically looking at bathrooms, send me an email. Okay? Send me an email, and then what we'll do is I'll call you in, show you everything that's entailed inside of it. We'll have a little morning meeting and basically at the showroom, and I'll take and show you everything that's involved inside of it and see if you're still interested at the end. If you are, then we'll allow you to attend the same training as we will any bath reps coming into it. My whole thing is, though, you need to be good on the window side before you go adding another product line in, because what that can do, it splits your mix. It means you're 50% good at one thing and 50% good at the other. It's hard to be 100% in on both things. So again, if you've got windows dialed in and you want to add bathrooms to look at that aspect, more than welcome into it. Can be a lucrative business. Projecting out, I think it can be even. It can be as even, if not even maybe, I'd say about even with what window business is when window business is kicking.
I know we don't want to go too deep into it right now, but is it full remodel or is it just the shower bath?
Doing just the wet area out the start. I'm not doing vanities and all that other stuff yet. Right now is wet areas. That's the bathing areas and things like that we get into. There's a lot of California combos, which means shower tub combos to get into there that you can mix into. A lot of cool stuff. But again, right now our focus is on the wet areas. That's what all of our other branches are doing is wet areas. We got one of them that's doing everything into it. The reason why I like the wet areas is we can be in and out in a day on basically the install. And we can do, that's tearing it all back to all the old tile, anything back down to the studs, fixing in the wood rot, going back in with green board, resealing back everything up. making sure all your water management system designed and basically the water's flowing correctly, and get all the, snake in your plumbing, have all that stuff done and basically in and out of there in a day. And then your average sell is around basically anywhere between 10 to 15 grand. And then basically when you get into some of your upper echelons, you can be 25, 30 grand in there pretty easy, just for the wet area. So it depends on what they want.
So it's skilled area.
Yep. So basically the rest of it, you can get your handyman to take care of, right? This is what we're focused on.
How does the marketing work? Are we marketing Dream Stop and come in to do windows, doors, and baths? Or are we having separate commercials, separate flyers?
Separate is what they're doing in the other markets right now. Okay? And then plus, we'll go back through all of our own customer database too. And we'll start pegging through our customer database too. So should be pretty good. So again, if you have interest in it, shoot me an email one-off and let me know you've got interest into it. There's a lot to learn. So again, you got to have the capacity to do both. Some can, some can't. So again, that is an option. All right. With that said, Keith.
You want me to? You can mirror mine.
You can mirror yours. I stopped the potty breaks for a minute. Yeah.
I want to focus this morning on product knowledge quoting in the software. I don't think we have to worry about the selling part of it. I think it's more of getting familiar with the software and getting to some of the points where you're getting stuck in the home and maybe being able to find what you're looking for. For instance, if I had a customer rep call me. I'm going to go into the brochure. You don't have to follow on the app. You can look on the screen. I'm going to go into the catalog, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. One of the reps went into the home, and the customer found this door. Give me a second to find it. They found this door, and they said they want the 002 C437. Well, the rep had no idea. I at first didn't know when they called me on where to find that. However, look on the little screen on the bottom left-hand corner. It says Signet Embarked Knotty Alder. So now you know you have to go into the Signet, pick the Knotty Alder skin, because my initial thought was Signet Cherry. That was the first thing I told the rep was, go to Signet Cherry. Well, heck, the 437 didn't show up. But a lot of times, if they have something, you can go into the catalog and you can go into the page and actually find your information before you go on the quoting software. The Signet, the Speakeasy door. This Speakeasy door is only available in Signet fiberglass. Only available in fiberglass. So if they want a Speakeasy, we're going to have to go to the Signet door. It is not available in steel. We actually tried it. We installed 2 or 3 different ones on the steel door. We have a similar style with the panels, and it did not hold up onto that steel skin versus the fiberglass. So if they want a Speakeasy modern style door looking like this, you have to go into the Signet series. And now it's all a matter of, do they want the clobbles? If they want these clobbles, you actually have to pick and in a second we're going to build one so I can show you guys. You have to pick the panel points for your clobbles to even show up on your hardware page. And it can be a little bit confusing if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's the catalog. Let's go into designing a door. Everybody knows that this is the first door that shows up. It's built in a single door, no side light, no transom. So, everybody knows single door, French door, patio, double or triple. Does everybody understand what those mean? Double means they both open up. You just have a flip lever for the inactive. It can swing in or out. The patio door, one stationary, one swings in only. And you're gonna have a sliding screen on the outside. And the triple is the exact same thing. One of them will be operable, the other two will be stationary. Side lights, either one side, hinge side, knob side, or both. Hinge side light does not mean the side light opens. Three things that we do not make: operable side lights, Dutch doors, and arch top doors. Those are the three things that we do not produce. So somebody, I think you called me on an arch top door. That is not our doors. We do not make an arch top door. We do not make a Dutch door, and at this point, our side lights do not operate. They're all going to be stationary. Transoms. Everybody knows what a transom is. Now, this is what I want to get into, the frame type. In your kit, excuse me, you have the Frame Saver frame. Frame Saver frame is a wood. You have to put the cladding on the outside. Now, you have a frame fusion frame, smoother textured, and that is this one. This is taking the place of the Frame Saver if they want a 100% match on their exterior stain or paint. Remember how when we built Signet doors on the Frame Saver, all of a sudden your cladding does not match the stain? Now it's becoming an issue with the homeowner. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We're going to build a 36. Bear with me. We're going to build a Signet door. It's a cherry. And we're going to color the outside that. Notice how your frame is white. We are on Frame Saver right now. We have to go to the bottom and pick cladding. However, if I skip back and go to the Fusion Frame texture, automatically goes to color match.
But that's only on an in-swing door, right?
Now, that is the difference. The Fusion Frame at this point is only available on an in-swing. On an outswing, you would want to go with the composite for the warranty anyway. But the Fusion Frame is available in an in-swing, right or left, and you can either pick texture or paint. If you have a Legacy steel door and you want to paint it, you pick smooth. Now it's going to be 100% match on all those 16 colors, including custom paint. If you pick a Legacy steel door, you go with smooth, you go back and you pick Fusion Smooth, go back to your color, and you pick Balanced Red. The whole thing is going to be Balanced Red now. Does everybody understand that? Fusion Frame, paint or stain match in any color.
Is that what we want to do now?
I would, if it was an in-swing door, I would 100% go with the Fusion Frame.
If I remember correctly, it was only a couple $100 more than
Correct. And why take the chance? The cladding gets damaged. It's not 100% a paint or stain match. I mean, this just, it looks nice, looks done. This is actually the way it comes. It actually has a little level in there for the installers this stuff snaps off, and then they snap it back in, put their screws in and snap that back in. Now, you no longer on the color page have to even pick cladding. It's not an option. It's not in there. You're just going to select how many tubes of caulking you want to send with it. And again, now some of these, when you select the caulking, it's going to ask you for clear or white because it doesn't do a stain match or something like that. Maybe pick clear or something so that the guys at least have some caulking for that. Now, if I go to the front, there is some limitations to the Fusion Frame. For instance, if I pick a transom, immediately my Fusion Frame goes away. It is not an option with the transom. Now we've got to go with the Frame Saver or composite. So now we go back to Frame Saver. Now we go back and have to cover the cladding. Frame Saver, you want to choose cladding. Without Frame Saver frame, your exterior is only going to be primed and somebody else has to paint it. Provia won't paint the Frame Saver on the outside of the weather stripping. Frame Saver frame, cladding. Don't give the homeowner an option not to pick cladding. Pick something. lifetime warranty if they pick that class. It has a lifetime warranty on the Fusion, any color. The paint warranty on the Fusion frame, on this, paint or stain, goes with whatever door you're putting on this. So if you put a Legacy Steel door on here, there's gonna be a 7-year finish warranty. If you hang a Signet door on here, it's gonna have a 10-year finish warranty. Goes with whatever the finish warranty is on the door that you're putting on the frame. Does that make sense? We're trying to keep it kind of simple. It's the frame itself has a lifetime. We guarantee that frame won't rot for as long as the first and second homeowner own that home. We are just talking about the finish. Now, the other thing I want to cover, and I think Mike, you and I talked about it this morning, on the glass section. When you pick glass, look at the bottom of your page. Every time you guys sell a Signet door, it automatically comes plugless. You don't see this button. If you see that button, don't ask the homeowner, just click it and make it go green. Because now you have a plugless trim option. That trim's just gonna snap into each side of that door. There's brackets that hold the glass in, but the homeowners don't see those. Everybody knows those god-awful looking plugs that are not 100% flush. The first thing they see, if you see this thing not green, just click it.
Do you guys know what that is, by the way?
Now, why can't it just be, because we always have to push it.
Yeah, I screwed up and push it. Don't push the button. Don't make it a deal. It's not a big deal. You gotta push a button. It's this thing right here.
Around the trim around the glass.
It's otherwise called a glazing bead, okay? It's that trim that's, if you get the flat door, then it's that trim that surrounds the glass. That's called a glazing bead. That plugless trim means that you don't have those little round knot holes they gotta plug the screws with and cover it. It just means it's no plugs all the way around, so it's seated.
How doesn't that come standard? I mean,
Because it costs money.
well, but who?
Now we can go into the
Because
pro.
there's slum bag companies out there that don't wanna know.
When you pick on Signet, notice how when I get to the glass section of a Signet, you don't have to pick it. Every door with the Signet glass automatically comes with plugless trim. Heritage and Legacy Steel, it's an option to pick plugless.
John Mary, one of
I
the
would-
great things you get by trusting Drew Sunlight to do your door project onto it, we don't have those nasty ugly plugs all the way around here. See this where you get plugless trim? It's gonna be gorgeous and take that basically look and approach away from basic plugs and simplify that approach. That's important to you, isn't it? Could you imagine your friends come up to a new door that you're all proud of and you got all these ugly plugs sitting on the inside? Yeah, that looks like hell.
Now, if you ever want to know, is plugless trim available in this glass? Go to the Signet style and look at all the different glass options. If that's the size glass, it's available in plugless trim. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
Dustin, are we doing that plugless trim on everything if we happen to miss that on a door? Do they just default to that?
No.
Build it?
Because I just screwed up and forgot one.
So I have picked a cherry fiberglass. All your styles right here. Mike, I think this is the one you had picked, right? That's the style you had picked in the Legacy. However, this is in the Signet, so it's available as a plugless trim. Now, let me show you what is not available and will never be plugless, and that is these guys. I talked to a homeowner last week in Vegas. Holy crap, was she pissed. Well, that's stupid. Why couldn't you guys just put something over those plugs? That looks just stupid. I'm like, it's not an option. It's going to have plugs. This modern trim in the 14, 15, and 16 style door will have plugs every single time. This is not a style that you see in Signet. This is not an option in Signet. It's an option in Heritage and Legacy Steel. That's why you see the plugless trim button on Heritage and Legacy, and you don't see it in Signet. Because not everything in Heritage and Legacy is available in a plugless trim. I think it's super important that we point this out to the homeowner that they are going to have plugs on this, because it is the first thing that they see.
Does that show up in the render? Like, can we see the plugs at all, or is that just? not,
On the picture, you can't.
so.
But-
I mean, so
It's just-
Picture shot, you wanna see what it looks like. And,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Show a picture with and without.
Well,
Here's what you get from the box store, here's what we do. Here's what you
I
get from the box store.
just quoted one of that style out, and I never even talked about plug.
No.
Apparently, they do this, I don't even know what plug looks like.
It's one of those things where it usually doesn't bite you in the butt till they see it, and then you're like, oh crap, I didn't realize that or didn't know that. There'll be some that around every single one of those, and these modern style doors, you actually see a little bit on even the outside. On the outside you see it, and on the inside you see it. But it's just not, those style of trim is not available in the plug trim. If you ever have questions, call Dustin, myself, customer service, and hey, it's not, because it doesn't really say it when you're building it. It's just a matter of being able to, if you want to know for sure, take this door, switch it over to Signet, and see if the style shows up. But if it doesn't show up, this glass, it has to be one of these style in order to be plugless trim. Does that make sense? I don't want to freak you guys out about plugless trim or not, but some of the times you do have to have the conversation on something like this. Now,
So that door is not available from Signet.
this is not.
Is heritage and legacy the modern?
Correct. Yep. Now, I know for a fact that this glass is not available in plugless trim. That trim is too small. And if I switch it over to Signet, that again is not a, look at those different glasses. They're all a little bit bigger, different style.
Keith, is there a place that we can see what's available in the different style door? That's some sort of reference for us that, so we don't, until we know it really well, just kind of like looking for it every time, like what can work with which style, with which door, like that's the.
They don't really have a reference like just a sheet.
Like if we see a door that we like to use, and like what kind of frame that you can use with that. and,
Yeah.
Like coloring it, like all these, there's so many different options that get us stuck, at least for me, I get stuck in the payments where I'm like trying to figure out how to get what I want.
The reason they probably don't have this in the list of stuff is because it's point and click on this thing. And it's just a matter of getting used to what's available. We know that the Fusion frame is only in swing. The Signet's gonna come with plugless trim. Signet's not made in a 30-inch door, so when we have a 60-inch door, we know we have to go to Heritage or Legacy Steel.
One of the things I did all the time, Cynthia, when I went into it, I didn't break that book out. The book is dangerous. Because that book
I
is
agree.
in so much trouble.
Oh, yeah.
I break out the iPad and I design the door, I go and measure the door and I'm designing it as I'm measuring it and building it. And then after I know it's a 64-inch, 59-inch door, then I'm showing them what's available, rather than make them pick what they love and then going back in and trying to make it work. You get yourself in too much of a disaster. So I always build the door, I take the measurements of the door first, and then basically I enter it in. Then I look at the hanging, I figure out what they want to have happen inside that door. We talk about design and if they want side lights, no side lights, the center door. And then I'm pushing all that in there. So when the door is built, now I know what my options are on that size. And then I'm just touching what options I want to add to it. So instead of basically having to make them love the door, then you're sitting there flustered trying to figure out how to build it. I like to build it as I'm going, then it's basically interactive. It's interactive with them and the program itself, rather than having to go backwards.
And the reason why.
If I can't get them to love something, then maybe I'll break out the book and try to find a picture in the book. But I can tell you, I sold crap load of these doors, and I broke out that book maybe once or twice to show like hardware or something to that nature.
And the cool thing about it is you have the catalog on your app. You know, that's just like for a reference after you build it, you go into the catalog and say, hey, this is what you picked, upsize it. They can really focus in on what they picked. But you don't, and the danger about the catalog is this exact reason. They have fallen in love with this style. All of a sudden you go up to measure their door and it's a 30, 60-inch door. You go to the sizing tab and the smallest available on that is 64. So they fall in love with the Signet door you talked about how cool it is in your kit, the corner cutout and stuff. You go to build it and realize it's a 60. Now we know we can't go to Signet because we don't make a 30-inch door.
Your first step should always be measuring and inspecting the door. Based on-
Double check your measurement, yeah, yeah. And now, the other thing I wanted to point out is, notice the frame right now on the outside view? It's white. Like, what the heck did I do? Go back to unit and change it to a fusion texture. And it goes to match. Go over to style. You have more styles in Cherry than you do in, for instance, R90L or 437 shows up. In 90L, it doesn't show up in Cherry. 437 is not there. 449. Remember with the planks at the bottom? If the planks are available, they're going to show up on this door. If I select the 440, planks are not an option. Just a matter of point and click, because if it's not available, it's not going to show up. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If they pick the 449 style door, there's no planks. I go back to hardware. My speakeasy is there, and my hinge straps are there. Clavels are not there. However, if I go back to style, switch this over to a 449 with planks, go back to hardware, boom, all of a sudden my clavels show up.
What's that?
The clavels, these little black dots that go. But before those planks show up, they're not even an option to pick. Because where would we put them? It would be all over the place. Does that make sense? Pick back on 440. Does it not make sense? Okay, notice how this door has, JC, notice how this door has no planks. You know what I'm talking about? Look at this.
No, I get that.
You see that?
Yeah.
Now, if I go back to hardware, these guys, those are not an option until you pick those panel planks.
And the panel planks are only available in a few options.
Correct.
Or one.
There's a few options that have panel planks. One. I'm just saying, they're gonna pick this picture in the catalog, and all of a sudden you're gonna say, well, heck, it's not available, I can't pick it.
Yeah.
Well, you may have, on your style, you may have not selected those panel planks. All of a sudden, you don't have an option to pick them. Go back to your style page, pick your panel planks, not an option. And again, to your point, there's not a whole list of, this is what I can do with this style, this is what's available for this style. It's just a matter of practicing the app, knowing what's available in the app. Go
I ran
ahead.
into something yesterday where it was a 40-inch door and you could do anything possible.
40-inch door. When you get to a over 36, when you get to a 42 watt, you are going to fall under the embossing stuff goes away. I even have to go to the legacy steel in order for it to, my sizing to show up. So now I picked a 42 by 80 single door. Anything I pick here, the bottom is going to be flush. We don't get a steel into our factory that has embossing on the bottom in a 42 wide. So if I pick this one, it's going to have a small, but you can put any glass in the door, but it's just not going to have embossing. Now if you go 4296, and this is just a matter of knowing, you go over to style, you do have a 2-panel Signet door available in a 42 by 96. You have the inscribed. But yes, limited to 42.
Anything over 36 is not going to be embossed unless you're some unique scenario.
Yeah, correct. Go ahead, sir.
Can you go back to the clouds? Okay, so it's
Now, let me tell you one thing, and I know we can do this because I've done it for people. You can take this door, this is a 4296, And we can take that top panel and cut it out and put glass in there. It's not buildable on here. You have to go and you have to tell me what decorative glass do they like, give me an Intralink number, and then engineering would get back to us on price.
I'll never know.
I would never do that.
I would never.
So we subcontract out.
This is a 4296. This is a special
If you have glass,
What's that?
if you special order the glass, the Corning glass in here, don't take any price at all. I mean, probably shouldn't be operating.
It's still like 200 bucks.
Now,
Since we're all close to it.
Yep. Let's go back and let. Do you guys?
If I think. I'm going to take that.
Let's say I had selected a custom width, custom height. Okay, I have selected a custom size door. And they want to add a storm door. Under unit, it does not give me an option to pick storm door. We have to save it. Save the job. And you have to, where the heck did it go? You have to actually upload this order and go into Intralink to build a storm door on top of it. The app won't allow you to add a French storm door. Or, let me
Whether it's custom or not.
no, French no matter what. But let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to upload the order.
So it's two separate?
Correct. But it'll stay on the same, let me show you how it'll stay on the same Intralink number. As soon as it's done doing its job, it's gonna give us an Intralink number. You click on that Intralink number, and now from there, you can add a new item to the order and go in and build. But I have to show you where to find the sizing for your storm door. I know, that's what I'm thinking forever, I shouldn't have done that.
Well, this is going, I have a quick question for you.
Go ahead, sir.
So, a while back, I was designing a door, they wanted a transom, to match the glass on the door, but the image would not show that glass design, it was just clear glass.
But in the product description, did it say that it was gonna have that decorative glass, initial on it? Because if you go in the product description, and it'll tell you under transom that it'll have the decorative glass, means it's gonna come in there, it just don't all render because there's different size transoms.
Okay, and are there certain size transoms that will allow for decorative glass?
Some of them will, certain sizes will show, like a normal 7280, I believe, will actually render the picture, but then when it goes bigger, the computer doesn't take all those sizes into consideration. So, but if you go in the product description, and it'll tell you that decorative glass is gonna be in the transom, it'll show up in the transom.
With that decorative glass, and the homeowner didn't say anything, but as I walked up, so decorative is only on the inside and not on both sides of those glass, so.
Decorative glass is a third piece of glass.
Oh, is that, it's in between? 'Cause
Yeah.
it looks,
It's in between.
Is it installed backwards?
yeah, it looked,
Now, was it privacy or was it decorative?
decorative.
Okay? Yeah, decorative is actual 3 pieces of glass, and you have, now it'll look different on the outside and inside because if you pick low E. Low E will be on surface 2, you decorative glass, and then you'll have clear glass on the inside.
Okay.
Maybe that was the reason, but it is not on surface 4 or 2.
How about a privacy glass?
Privacy glass, same thing.
And decorative glass.
Privacy will be on the inside surface 3, and the decorative glass will be a third piece of glass. Like Barcelona with
On the
privacy.
inside, and then you'll have decorative.
Correct.
So decorative will not impact the amount of privacy.
Decorative will not.
So they're not in the same pane, so there's.
No, correct.
The privacy will.
For instance, the only time you would use privacy glass with decorative would be like the Barcelona. or the Carmen where it's the wrought iron.
Well, I'm a client who did the inspirational glass
Okay,
with privacy glass.
okay. Inspiration will be where the decorative is,
Right. In
the
middle.
third piece,
Right.
and then your privacy will be on the interior. On the surface 3.
You can see it from the outside, but really not from the inside.
Correct, correct.
Surface
decorative
one plain
glass.
glass then?
Surface 1 is, we call surface 1 on the very exterior.
Is that plain glass or is that privacy as well? When you do a privacy?
No, that'll be just plain glass.
Okay, so
Private.
plain glass, inspiration, privacy.
Correct, correct.
So privacy is where now?
On the inside.
Interior.
Interior.
Privacy is always inside.
What was your
Inside
question?
the interior.
What was your question, sir?
I built an inscribed door, and the customer didn't like that the inscription was not on the interior.
You can
side.
do it on both.
Okay.
You can do it on both. You can pick interior. What you have,
How do we do that?
I'll tell you in a second. Let me
Thank
finish
you.
this one where we're at. So I have now uploaded this double door in the entry. I have to go up to the top.
Can you kick the other screens in, please?
I'm not sure why these screens, Dustin, do you know why these screens are almost
I see.
black behind us?
Just give it a second and it'll come back on. That's my thing.
Kick it.
Shake it loose. At the very top of your page, there'll be a button that says add new item to your orders. If you click on that, now you can, actually, let me, sorry, I got it back up. Sorry, I jumped around. So, under your order, there's an edit button. If you go to that edit button,
A little thing on the bottom.
now, under your door, picture your door, there's a sizing tab. If you click onto that sizing tab, now scroll all the way down to the bottom. Right here, it tells you storm door, brick mold opening. Now, these are the numbers you have to plug in to build that French storm door.
No matter.
I know it's super confusing, isn't it? This is on a French entry. We want to put a French storm door on. So we have built a French door, double in swing. They want a double out swing storm door. We have to know what size to make this. We go to the sizing tab. At the bottom of the page, it says 67 7/8, 77 3/8. So that's the number that we're going to pencil in when we go to add our new items to the order.
Do we need a separate login to get in the entry link, or can we add?
No, you can just click the button.
Yeah.
Click the button. Okay, Dustin, thank you. That's what you wanted, right? Is that what you were looking for? Yeah. So, we're going to go to the bottom. We're going to hit save. I shouldn't have uploaded all 10 doors. Go to the top of the page. Click on add new item to the door. Now, instead of going to the entry, we're going to go straight to storm. Now, you have a French door option available. In the app, it only says single. You don't have an option to build a French door in the storm door. This is where you have to come if it's a double French door over top of the French entry. Now, you actually have to hit custom size, because the number that we saw in there was not a standard size. You have to hit custom, write that number down and put it into the sizing tab.
Do you have any samples of that, I forget the name.
The mesh.
Screen, the
Now, you guys should have, you have samples in your kit, it's a little single carry.
Not the screen, but the.
Yeah, we did.
No,
A little separate bag.
we don't. I
Yeah.
never-
I think there's extra in at the warehouse, double check this. So there's a single bag that actually has a DuraGuard kit or cutout, and that it has a stainless steel mesh on it.
Okay.
It's a nice little carry.
Yeah. I guess it's.
On that, Keith, on that door guard, screen, so when you go to the pieces where they have that screen, like you push one button or you have to have a key and you turn it, like there's 3 or 4 different, locks for the door guard screen. See, like you have that lock, and then there's another one where it's one piece, And then you have one where it's just a long piece like this, they push. So people are asking me, what's on the inside of that? What's on the inside of that?
I'm a little bit confused. Are you talking about this, like you're seeing right here?
They
That?
put up from the inside.
Look at the, put that inside.
Like
So
that?
one that's just a,
Like a
somebody
little
has to have it.
Well, what I would do as a rule of thumb would always pick mortise lock on your stone doors. Because if we pick one of these two mortise locks at the very top, now they can key their doors alike.
Correct.
Whether it's a single door, double door, you have to pick the Sierra or Venice mortise lock in order to key it alike.
What if they have a keypad? Can they use a keypad?
Keypad, we can't do keypads on a stone door.
Yeah, but if they have a keypad on their.
Entry door?
Yeah, we can match the keys to the stone door.
As long as they have a flag or intent key that has a number on there, you could give us that number. Then you would still pick the mortise lock and we would key it to that. We would key it to their key. Have to pick a mortise lock to key it alike to the entry door. So don't go to the contemporary curve, just go to the mortise lock. Does that answer your question? Casey?
Yeah, thanks. She was just asking me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a little button.
That-
What does it look like? It's just a little button, like on a screen.
What I would do,
Probably look at your catalog that way.
exactly, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
God forbid you have a catalog.
No, I wouldn't hand him a catalog.
It's in here.
You look at it, everything
Everything
else.
else, and you say,
I never.
I would go to the catalog, right here.
Go to my car.
At this point, they're not seeing my screen. I would go down to the bottom, to the storm door section. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, these are the two we have to pick from. If you want to key it to your entry door. Oh, now it's gonna make me scroll all the way down the key. And the contemporary curve is the one that it defaults to. There's your picture of your hardware for your stone doors, right there in your,
Just how I described it to her.
right there on your app.
Like, some of the little push things.
I don't know what she wants to know.
These options are somewhere you're building the door.
Yes.
But it doesn't show.
It does.
I went to the catalog in the app, brochures and videos. Does everybody understand how to get to the catalog? From your home screen, click on doors, entry doors, and then instead of entry door designer, go to brochures and videos. The very top one that says entry door, that's your catalog.
But how do you get it in the pricing, in your building? All those different. It's just, I'm trying to do it along with you and I don't see it. I want to choose more stuff.
No, you're on entry door, that's why you're not seeing the
Oh,
numbers.
okay.
When you're on entry door, that's for storm doors.
Okay.
That's for storm doors.
Can you go over, bays and bows a little bit?
Yeah.
So I can see that.
So, that's the other thing. Have to go into Intralink to build bears and bows. Can't do it on your app. So you're gonna need Wi-Fi in the home. So I click on Intralink.
You guys should all have it on your, built into your unit.
We don't have these pictures.
Yeah, you don't want that, trust me.
There's like a where?
You say we do that entry link, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Go to Intralink online.
when you go onto your little wheel on your app, you go into your little home screen, there's a place to click. Let me show you, sorry. Right here. Sorry. Under the bottom right-hand corner, if you pick the little wheel, there's an option to pick Provia or Intralink, and you can just click on Intralink, that'll take you straight to the quoting software. Go to your little wheel on the bottom. Go to your little wheel on the bottom.
Yes.
Now click on Intralink instead of Provia. Oh, no, let's get rid of that face. Ew. Okay, now we are where we go. Stop. Now, this is the screen you should be seeing. You see this screen? No.
No.
Oh, you guys go to start new order. It's just click on start new order.
So it's got
Anything that you have uploaded should be in there for you to see. Unless it's been went through from your starting order.
Where's
You see it where it says starting order?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right there. Oh, just click on starting order.
If you have changes.
Okay.
Like it more efficient? Make it.
Now you're gonna see, your screen shows something different. You guys should see A's and O's in the middle. Click on that. Yeah. You're being funny. Is everybody with me? Click on A's and O's. No.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. What are we at here? Are we getting close? What do you see on your, yep, the same as mine. Click on the door windows, the one in the middle. Indoor. Window program, click on indoors. Everybody see the screen? A's and O's? Click indoor, the middle one.
Why?
Dan, you got it right? Dan, the arrow says wood, interior wood, and you go into the door instead.
Yeah, but you click on
Okay, now, the windows, the very first one there, window type, unit type. Now window type. You want a double hung on the flankers and a picture in the middle? Or do you want casement on each side and a fixed casement in the middle? That's what that casement means. Does that make sense? If I click on double hung picture, that's exactly what it's going to be. If I click on casement, 2 crank outs, fixed casement in the middle.
So it doesn't change the actual.
It doesn't. No, it does not change the image. It does not change the image. Now,
Can you make the middle window operable?
you can on the bay, you can on the boats, we can, but not. Exact size. I usually pick exact size. You tell us as close as you can what size that window is. How wide, how tall?
The opening of it.
Mean the open.
The opening, correct. Well, I usually pick on exact size instead of opening size. That's a preference thing, how you guys, how your, section.
We're still measuring it the same way.
Correct. Opening size, I think we take off like it comes in like a half inch under your opening size. I usually just say exact size, give it the exact, and the size there, we'll double check that when they go up there.
I mean, you measure like how.
How big is your opening, yeah. If you're creating one, then somebody's telling you how big.
It's even easier to create that.
Oh, I'm gonna make it 72 by 48. Or something like that.
Hey, Dustin, can you say the day again?
No. We're just measuring.
Get up there and fix that.
Midas. Like Midas right now.
So just put a size in there. I put 72 by 48. Put in your sizes. And you notice how the question marks each stay in there until you answer the question. That's what's nice about the program. It tells you what the next question is. Your flanker size, 18, 21, 28, or quarter, half quarter.
What's up?
Okay, flanker is this, the side window. That's what they call a flanker. It flanks the main picture window.
It's like a language that somebody was watching.
The side where the flanker window is.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
So you gotta do your size. Yep. How's IT doing over there?
I'm blaming you. I don't know, something you're doing.
Cool. Does that make sense?
It's gonna require action.
That's why I brought my pockets.
Just pick something, hope you're close, don't do that, because then I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't know, is there a rule of thumb, Dustin, you might know this. Is there a percentage of higher, the angle, is it more of a 15 or 30? What is the rule of thumb out there in Bow Windows in the area?
What's that?
Or back.
Or Bay? The degree, 15 or 30, what would be?
Probably no.
All over the board, right? 30?
Go for the middle. Go for the middle.
30 is generally, 30 is probably the most popular.
Okay, so I picked an 18-inch length side and a 30-degree bump.
45 jets.
Standard, I don't think that's.
A resource where we can know what the actual section is. Or is it saying I can now?
If you click on the side, it'll tell you a little bit there, yeah. Click along. Hopefully, click on the side. Right underneath the window, if you click on sizing tab, it'll tell you a little bit of the description. Right there, the sizing tab. Yeah, kind of gives you an idea.
So basically, when you put in that, then it's going to give you your options on the size of the blanket.
Correct. Well, actually, I don't think that length or size people change. It's going to go so small. I'm not 100% sure. But if you go to here, go to your sizing tab right there, it'll give you a little bit better description of what it looks like. Yeah.
Obviously, it'll change the depth as you change the stuff.
Yeah, correct.
So if you see this, like if you go,
Now, I don't know how are we doing on time? This is pretty cool. Color and finish. The Aspect is available in white, beige, or sandstone in integrated colors, or you can do classic oak, dark oak, and traditional cherry, and interior wood look. It's a what I call peel on look. It's a laminated interior. These are vinyl. These are vinyl on both sides, correct. Now, if you select white, now you have your outside colors of white, beige, or sandstone. In the exterior, the classic bronze, see the little star? That is an exterior laminated classic bronze. That makes sense? So if they would want a white bronze, you could do that. Does that make sense? You can do a traditional cherry. This is interior. Up here is interior. Then you're going to have a laminated exterior outside, or you could do white outside.
Classic bronze is always laminated.
The bronze is always laminated. Or you have your options. We can paint the exterior, all these things in color. Yes.
What's the finish warranty on
10 or 15 years on the painting.
What is this?
Yeah.
Does the glass have an argon on it?
It does. When we go to glass, it'll tell you what to do. Does that make sense? These are your interior colors. If I go to sandstone, sorry, I wanted to. If I go to sandstone white, my interior becomes a laminate. Does that make sense? My interior white. Laminate is like peeled to this extrusion line on the inside. The sticker that doesn't come off, can't peel it off.
It's like a heat tape. It's like
Comes directly from the Kuni.
it's basically like rolled on, like almost impregnated inside it, like tattooed onto it.
so it's not like a melamine.
No, they don't, it's not like a peeling stick. It's impregnated.
I'm trying to think of what's how.
Yeah.
Would you like laminated? Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. But you're peeling.
Like they do on the dashboard of the cars.
Yeah,
You know, how
exactly.
they do it on the dashboards of cars. Yeah, it's like we used to call it color bond.
So then if you pick that one, you have one on the outside that's like plastic and then inside is,
Right now I have the inside is white.
or you can pick whatever.
But you can pick.
So how crappy looking at.
Whoa, lady, there's nothing wrong going to do.
No, I mean,
This is beautiful. This right here, traditional cherry, that is absolutely gorgeous. If you actually go in, it doesn't render the picture right now, but if you actually build one indoor, also, we have a whole fiber indoor window. That's a beautiful looking. It looks like an interior wood window, but the cost is way down compared to actual.
I told you it's $9,000 cheaper.
no, I'd say it's.
It's so gorgeous.
So beautiful. I have no idea, I have children under it.
It's about 10 grand compared to the color.
Here you go, sold one later today, I like it.
Well, like 8 grand compared to like.
18 to, 7, yeah.
Hey, to the, roofs, I guess you can get that.
So we're still, okay.
You just like,
Did I say it out loud?
I mean, we can talk about the plugless trim all day, but that thing is 8 grand cheaper. Talk about shit that matters. Can we go back to the clouds real quick?
We got to drill real quick there, sorry, that little, 3-letter order, this is. Interior wood, it's asking what you want your interior wood to be.
Interior wood for the shelf.
Seat, from the seat, yeah.
And if it's not specified, what is it? It's not specified. I mean,
You have to answer it, because actually, question mark doesn't go away, you don't get a price. You have to answer that.
So it's gotta be birch.
Birch is a little bit less money in the oak. And birch would be more of for a paint, for a painter. Interior.
Yeah.
Now you have your interior casing, if they're gonna do casing or if they're gonna do no casing, you don't have to pick casing, but you have to pick your trim kit.
So, real quick, interior finishing. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
Finishing.
Yes, if you want to finish everything.
So meaning that it's painted, finished?
Yes, correct. Correct.
You can like wrap the inside, you know how you used to be able to laminate the seats on the, Bay World ones?
Yeah,
Very similar to that.
okay, this is just for the seat.
I'm not quite sure why you would finish the stops and loadings only, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Everything is.
Yeah.
But this
Do
is-
everything if I went with a snow mist, and now everything's gonna be covered in snow. Yeah, cause I have both my interior and outside snow mist, so now I'm gonna finish everything in birch and paint with snow.
And they got a pretty cool Bay Boat kit too.
So always press everything.
Sure. You're not sure if you did everything.
Everything.
Wow.
Everything.
Now,
Everything?
I'm gonna go up to the top and we're gonna go to options.
Wait, what?
What's the
what-
difference
what-
between the
what-
pine?
What's a fan?
Interior and the wood.
What's all this?
What do you see?
So,
You pick casing or something,
it's on,
and that's just interior casing. Now you just pick your color, pick your snow mist color so it matches everything. Just like your entry door.
It'll default when you.
No, let's pick that.
What is the
Okay,
finite
yeah.
stuff?
Why does it? Instead of match colors, what's not, this is, yes, that's what we
You
got.
said we have to choose.
What is pine?
Do we choose none for kyanite as well, or what do we choose for kyanite?
I kind of skipped over because I was kind of an idiot, don't know exactly what they're talking about. Windows are friendly for me. Dustin, help me out here.
What's that?
The pine, it's.
They're talking about the seat.
I think that's like the, interior shell, white pine, it's like the laminated seat.
White is like a laminate.
It's like a laminated, it's like a smooth texture, kind of like if you look on, you know, the pad, you know, like the perma-shield we talked about on the outside of the Anderson door back in the day, how it's smooth like that. It's like that, it's just got a little grainy texture to it, it's what's designed to basically finish off the bay. So you wrap a laminate around the bay. Lineite's like another brand of like laminate.
Almost like a microscope.
It's like a sheet, and they basically heat press it to it, and it basically goes on.
So the interior wood,
If you don't want to have to stain or paint it, it's a pre-finished white, is pretty much what
So
it is.
would it be either that or the interior wood? Or one or the other, or is it both?
Or the paint. Well, the interior.
High night.
The interior wood is actual birch, we actually picked birch.
I think it's a paint, I think that covers like a.
Poplar one or the other. Yeah. If you're doing a white interior, I would pick a white pine seat.
That's good. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm talking about.
Just like you.
Double check that.
So, no. Let me just.
Well, it's gonna still be, it's still gonna be birch. Like your pine, you're still gonna, because they have to wrap some of the wood.
Now,
So
on
it's just,
our,
it's just a trim or something, or what?
I'll show you.
Big units to operate.
I think it's.
Left or right. Well, that's all I'm after, that makes sense.
oh, somebody asked me a question. Sorry, I didn't know this. You asked if the center one can be operable. Look at your options page. It can.
High-night laminate. That's what it is. High-night.
Convert fixed units to operable. If you click on that, the center window, you want to
It's
crank
the
out
same,
left or
it's
right.
the same thing they use for laminate countertops. Same process they use for
Can you
laminate.
do that or interior, or what? So it's not.
When I picked it,
If you want to paint it, you might see the grains in it.
oh yeah.
Just one all white.
No. Yeah, I know, I'm sure.
Laminate.
It's not.
You'll see it color swatch.
I put
They do solid and they do
size from
solid.
It's just be a flat white.
It's just gonna be like having this go into.
If you're doing a all white day,
Yeah.
you used to do that. So you do one finish white, it looks just like that.
7248, 18-inch flankers.
Oh, right here, your flanker size, and you can either just be quarter, half quarter, and your flankers are quarter the size of the whole unit. You're just trying to make it look stupid. I can do that on my own. I can do that on my own. What did you have?
I've got the same as you. So I've got 72 by 48, quarter, half quarter. Are you at 30?
I put quarter by quarter on. 31.
It's $2,600.
Go back to your office again.
There goes the.
So you put in a triple slide. 78. $2,600.
I'll double check that. Find out why that's not.
I get a warning up here that says, interior.
Cheapest room addition you can find, Brian. What's that? Cheapest room addition you can find.
Dude, I mean, we're at, I don't want you to.
You got 11 looking,
I mean, that's
So it's not gonna hold us up.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it doesn't give enough.
Wait, it's like $400 or $500 a square foot. We're talking about.
Now, on your glass section,
Look at this, this is cool.
this one here defaults to DLA UV. DLA UV is a SolarBand 70. DLA is a SolarBand 60. So those are your different glass options. But the one thing I did notice, that when I go to energy, it doesn't give me an energy star rating.
What is the closest thing to the sun glass color look like?
What is HD? That's a hard code. DLA hard code.
So if you're mixing this in with pellicles and the sun defense glass.
My guess is it's DLA UV. I don't know for sure. I know ours is a SolarBand 70, like a 3 post low. DLA is SolarBand 60. This is SolarBand 70.
So that's where it defaults.
Yeah.
60 better than the 60 or the 60 better than the 60?
70 is better.
How many coatings of silver do you have?
So we're gonna need some.
I would say more than likely you're saying, what is your, I should go ahead and build a window and I can tell you your view factor with this versus, but anyway, we'll cross that.
Yeah, it's like one of the windows, polar has like great tints, crystal clear. So
Well, there's a gray and a green side. There's a gray and a green side.
Now, we have pink glass options, you can do the solar gray, bronze, blue, green. You have options to do a tinted, is that what you're talking about?
No.
No, just the glass itself has a sheen to it. And it depends on the manufacturer glass.
Closest, I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'll find out what's going on with that now, it don't mean, AMO.
What is glass going to be, Keith? Yeah, let's go to the graph, glass. Sounds like you're ordering drinks. You made triple, right?
Which one?
I wanna see if it fits me on the price, it is on the So, yellow tap underneath your window, just a warning. Still okay, still fits me on the price, ignore my price, it's not same as yours. Red's gonna mean you have to go back and answer the question.
Okay.
Yellow's gonna give you a price.
Oh, man, I have 4 reds, I did something.
Yeah, then you have to scroll back through there and see what your, it looks like you have to click something now. Let's go back through first and see,
Oh, I just.
looks like your width is way too small.
Yeah, I was just like.
Yeah, go and make that like 70. Any questions?
Yeah, glass strength, single, double, triple.
Single is, let me get this right. 3/32. Double is 1/8 inch, and triple is 3/16.
Okay.
DLA UV is gonna be the most similar.
Okay.
What is the product?
DLA UV, it's the glass that it
That's the
defaults
default,
to
okay.
glass, yep. Defaults to the DLA UV, so you guys don't have to worry about
And then they have tints there.
So.
Inspiration.
it. Yeah, you can get some crazy fancy.
It doesn't show
It
that.
doesn't show it, yeah.
So the flanker thing, instead of messing around with that, we just do.
So I just did now.
Quarter.
So it's like, that's.
Yeah, the same. Overall size 72, a quarter, both the flankers are going to
How's
have.
the middle window?
Right.
Yeah.
so 1 to 2.
Thank you. That's all. Just-
Attempt on the, smart, or on the basically sun defense is gray, right? Like kind of like
Yeah.
bronzy tint, yeah.
So.
It's
Thirty-
the-
page
the option
30 is there.
All the bronze, it's the bronze.
To the next hundred.
So that's a 90.
Yeah, there you go. Some finger distance.
Hey, man.
That right there, that's about 12 inches.
See that photo of my hat? That's what Debbie said.
I'm just trying to move it easy.
Did she talk to Dallas?
Most of the time, when you have a red button, if you have an incomplete error, you go back and hit the edit button. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
Say what it is though.
No, but if you go back and hit your edit, it'll be question marks on each page that you have not answered yet. Those question marks have to be answered. For instance, we just had one where it said incomplete configuration. At the bottom of the page, there's an edit button. If you hit that edit button, scroll through each page, there'll be question marks that you have not answered, and that's why you're not getting a price.
I don't have an edit button.
Once you save it, save it and it says,
I'm getting this.
unit must be complete. Okay, so now, for you, we
Start all over again.
just see if you have any question marks.
Right, okay.
Hit the next button. Keep going through there. Let's see this go away. I think that's actually. You do not have to put any comments in. You have to put a unit name and drop.
4 minutes.
Yeah, but here. Sizing must be reviewed.
Special order price.
Yeah, we just went over that, remember? Because it only gives you 2 options here. One option is that style.
Yeah.
Versus the aluminum. There we go.
Wood style roof, that's just like a frame out. Asphalt. So they've got the option for, yeah, wood, 4,000.
Wood might be, you like.
That's probably what.
I don't know, it just says wood roof style kit.
These seniors don't have.
I'm just trying to find out. 4,000.
He had a brochure.
Right.
Okay, so this is the whole interior.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't tie it back. So the door, so your glass. Right.
Versus a laminate white material. So that's 2,000.
Maybe they've got people in
Pretty straight.
So what is yours?
Same price here. Right now. Age, you know. This is, no, that was 1.8.
I've got the aluminum hip roof.
If you go none.
There you go, that's the only action. Don't bring it back. Right.
Guys,
And this is right here.
There's a lot of stuff to take in with this because it's brand new.
Brochure.
Yeah, I'm getting brochures and I'm gonna deal with customer service, I'll get you some kits. It's got one kit, but
So you can get it without roof?
you can.
Yeah, because you can do a facial film.
Depends on your application. If you're doing the overhang of the house is not covered or something, then you don't have to give.
If you're 12 inches from the soffit, 12 inches below from the soffit, you can do a facial film. And they just wrap, they put wood on it and wrap it with quilt.
Is that added cost if you look at it?
No, you don't need to.
But only if you want an actual roof.
We'll go over that stuff on it.
All right, does everybody also has, do they have the ability to build a garden window? Because I,
Yeah, they all have that in the app, actually shows you how to do
yeah,
that.
the app shows you.
Yep, app shows you how to do
Is
that.
there any way to see what it looks like?
It doesn't render a picture. No, I've got a brochure and I'll just show you guys real quick. I have one, but I'll get you guys more. It looks like this is a couple pages of just different information on bays and bows. And I'll make sure I send plenty out, so all you guys have a couple of these, but it has a lot of really good information for what it's gonna look like, your different roofs and stuff like that. You guys have pictures of them? I can also get you some pictures of what they look like.
I'll work with Keith to get pictures, all the stuff that you could need. I'll make sure I have it as a package for you, okay? All right, thanks, Keith. All right, wipe the slate, then we got 10 minutes of stuff we're gonna talk about, then we'll move on. So, here's a slate.
dominate. You must learn to dominate. You cannot compete. I don't want you just to compete, but competing is dangerous, because when you compete, you gotta go all the way to the fourth quarter to make that thing happen. But when you dominate, you take your opponent out of the game. People who are truly successful in this world, those people understand how to dominate. Winners dominate losers. Legends dominate winners. And your mentality on this earth should be that you want to dominate winners. Who gives a shit if you beat up on all the losers in the world? They're average and mediocre. It's easy win. That's what makes them losers. There is no honor in that. There is no real achievement in that. If that's the case, congratulations. You might get a nice car. You might get a nice house. You might have a nice life. But you are never, ever going to be truly fulfilled in your success, because you know that you are leaving a stone on the table. But legends feel fulfilled and happy. Not because they win or they're better than the losers, but because they do what they have to do to be the best there ever was. They might enjoy a nice life, but they are only truly lit up by the true mission of all dominators. That mission is to be the best there ever was at whatever it is that you do. Whether it's Oprah, Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, they're immersed. They're immersed completely in their environment. They're dedicated, completely dedicated. They have total commitment. Legends don't settle for being a winner. They strive to be complete domination. Legendary, if you really truly dominate, people are going to see it. They're going to be drawn to you. They will remember your fucking name, because by dominating your life, you will make a profound impact on all of the lives around you. Just winning is not enough. But dominating people who are winning, that's something that we really love.
I love that. Again, it's not just about winning, it's about dominating the winners. When you get into that aspect, it's not, again, that might just be the battle against yourself. But at the end of the day, you know, it's not fun beating up losers because you already know you're going to win, right? So basically, when you figure out how to take it to that next level and master it, that's a big deal. And mastering your game is part of it. Most of it's being comfortable with what you do, right? If we just show up and play on game day, but we don't practice for a game day, and we put in the extra reps, repetition, learn, figure out how to close it down. Some of you call me and say, well, they told me the objection. How'd it go? I said, well, I said this. Okay, well, why didn't you follow the script? What do you mean? Because the script works. And those of you that have been trying it realize that I don't just say it to say it. I say it because it works. I've mastered it for you so you don't even have to. I give you the shortcut to get there, right? But if you don't listen and you do what you've always done, you're only going to get what you've always gotten. And then that's your fault. So here's what I wanted to do real quick. I put this on here now, right? 120 by 80. Real fast, if I wanted to put my options in there in that door, what would be my options in that door to go back in? With 2 panels, what would be the only door I could do that in? Contemporary or reserve. Those are the only 2 options I have to do a 2-panel 120-inch, right? What would panoramic do?
3-panel.
3-panel, okay? Every other line, you're at least going to be 3 panels, right? And I got to pay attention in there when I look at my what to figure out what size I can do. ADM, right?
What do you do with 350?
Huh?
You could do 350 now.
Not 2-panel. 3-panel you can, not 2-panel. Yep, positive. So when you look at this one now, if I'm going to make this one whole unit and 164 inches, what do I have to be concerned of if I'm going to basically open that wall up?
Shear wall.
Shear wall. What else?
You can't do it.
What else?
The header size.
I'd have to measure and make sure I get enough room from here to here. And I look on the inside and the outside, right? And then, so what would be my charges if I'm going to open that up?
Engineering and large opening.
Engineering and permitting. and enlarge opening, right? Up to 8 feet, and then 265 per foot on top, right? Okay, what are things I need to worry about on this? What about inside and outside? What are things I need to worry about?
Is there a stoop on the outside of that window, what's underneath that window?
What's on the inside? What's on the outside? Are there gas lines? Is there anything I might see when I'm looking at that that might come up to be a problem later, right? So you'll need to look at not just the area, but look at all your surroundings, right? Make sure basically you're paying attention to the things that could be important. Because if you miss that stuff, it's a big deal. So at 164 inch wide, what are some of the different doors I could do in that scenario? Panoramic, what else? Okay, so basically we got to know what our options are going inside of it. And then you want to pay attention to their cabinetry, pay attention to their flooring, pay attention to their decor, pay attention to those things. Because if I go put a vinyl door in there just because it's cheap, that might not be the right thing to do if I need to mix in with their cabinets and other things in there. Think not just price, think design, right? If you're thinking about design and not just price, you're going to do bigger things. This one. Let's say I want to open that all up into one opening. What do I need to do?
Engineering design.
Engineering. Is this a support?
Yeah.
That's structural. Okay. What else do I need to be careful of? Header, what else?
Oh, is that little box on the left lower corner?
Could be, yeah, there's a dryer vent right there. What else?
The patio cover.
The pergola.
Because if there's not enough space for your header, then they're gonna want us to take down the patio or put it back up or whatever.
You need to pay attention how that's done because that might affect the load if that thing's set down there. And if I got to remove and replace that to install it and I don't charge something for it, I might be in trouble, right? You need to ask them too, is that something they want to stick there permanently or are they going to take it down after they put the new door in? Right? You got to ask those questions and get ahead of it. Sometimes we can miss those things. So again, when you look at that, your size and distance, and by the way, if I was going to schematic this took me literally like a minute to put all the little basic measurements and stuff on there. They're putting your measurements and stuff on here to show what they're walking into. If I'm a measure tech, I'm going to love that rep, right? If I don't see this stuff, it's kind of a disaster. So again, now I know what the existing window size is. I know what all that is. So now I'm looking at that picture too when I'm measuring and I'm outside. Let's say I have option 1 going back into the same exact thing as they have now in option 2. Other thing you need to be thinking about when you're going to do a project like this. How are you lighting their tail on fire with making sure that they need to have the project done? Let's say you walk into that talking, they're talking about gutting this whole wall out. If I forget to get that commitment, let me ask you, does that sound like a project you're definitely going to get done someday, or are you just entertaining the idea? I want to make sure and know how serious they are before I get into it. Because at least if I can't know that they're going to modify that whole opening, at least I can go back with an option of replacing exactly what they have because they really need to get it done. I'm not paying attention to basically the seal track. I'm not paying attention to the wall, figuring out where all the wood, see all the basic splitting that's happening from the water damage behind it, looking for nails. Are those nails pitting out? Are they pitting in? What's going on with that thing? Is swelling happening? What's occurring on that's going to make me earn that business, right? If I should never walk away if I walk into that without that order. It's not do all or nothing. It's you want option 1 or option 2. Option 1 or option 2. You got to get good at making sure you're scaling it down too. Here's your all-in project. Here's your starter package. Here's your all-in project. Here's your starter package. Here's option 1, option 2, not all or nothing. If I'm going to lower that opening, what do I need to what do I need to pay attention to? Say I'm going to turn that into a door. I'm going to lower that up.
Electrical.
I was going to have you guys price all these things out, but
One window or is there 2?
this is a 3-light glider setting in here.
Electrical, what's on the outside?
You're gonna lower opening. You're gonna what else? You're gonna charge in there? Move electric because you'd have to have a light and switch on the outside. And number 2, you need to pay attention to which landscaping's like on the outside of it, right? Number 1, remember, I always pay attention to the flooring. You know, if there's flooring or anything that's sitting back there, always pay attention to the flooring and make sure you're figuring out what would have to be done if the flooring was damaged, any of that stuff, how far your jam depth is, all that stuff matters. Because again, if lowering that opening is not gonna be an option, I need to do a good enough job inspecting in here and talk about what's going on, so at least I get to sell that window if they can't afford to do the lower the option. Does it make sense? Don't just leave all or nothing, have option one, option two. Option one, option two. I think too many times we go with their option one and we walk away without the business. We should have an option one and an option two in that inspection. What about this one again? I'm gonna lower that in, if I'm gonna lower that opening, what kind of door can I put in there at 118? What's the style of doors I can put in there, or I could put a standard in?
Razor.
What's that?
Arctic series, you could do, in-swing or out-swing with side lights.
So if I lower that opening up, I got 118 by 54, let's say if I lower it back down, I'm exactly at 80. So we'll say that, so my exact width, what doors can I fit in that opening without having to order a custom door? 4 panel?
Or you can do a panoramic depending on if they.
What's that? I said if we lowered it, it'd be 80, I said. So we lowered it to 80, you can do a panoramic, which only comes custom size. And then basically, or you can do a 3-panel. What 3-panel can you do? Because you're gonna get, some of them are gonna be at 117 and a half, right? Some of them are gonna be 118 exactly.
Well, the 2-panel one is 119 and a quarter,
So that would make that have to be custom, right?
depends on if they measured drywall to drywall.
On that opening, if the opening's 118, I'm taking it as, if I measured from here to here on the outside of it, that's 118. So there's no way you're fitting 119 in there. So what would be my option? See, sitting around thinking about these things, that's how you get sharp. So when you get in the house, you can be like Ryan, where you don't have to think about it. You know what's good, you know what your options are, and go in there, not having to go into ADM and figure out your options. You want to know these things, especially when you walk into these type of scenarios, right? I got 119, here's my go-to. I got 118, here's my go-to. If I have this, here's my go-to. Here's what would have to happen if I modify this stuff, right? That's the difference of being, you know, basically taking that domination side of it and then just doing it to get by. So again, know your options. That's the whole purpose of this, is knowing that option. Same thing here. If I wanted to keep the same existing envelope, is that structural?
No.
Is it?
No.
Is it? Okay. Just making sure you guys know. What makes it not structural?
Walls and that supports.
Yeah, moles are all part of the same unit, right? You can tell all the same unit. So again, you can tell those moles are super skinny. There's a reason why on the other ones I put 6 inches. I put the 6 in between it. So you kind of knew, kind of wrap your head. Anything over 4 inches, generally, you're going to find it's going to be structural inside of it. Some options in here, I go back with the same exact details I have. Put a panoramic in there. There's other aspects, right? So again, if I were modifying it, see how far the distance is between there on the side of it? And the time the house is built, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. If we were going to, say my door stopped here, and we were going to expand in, if I went that far, I guarantee I'd need shear wall. Next, when I show that one, what options would I have I could put in that system? What options could I do with that? Say I didn't want to do structural engineering, what could I do?
5 casements.
You can do
Posts are structural.
There's a 50-50 chance that your 4 inches, your 4-inch ones, how would you tell? If you're going to look at that 4-inch post on the outside of it, from the outside, I would tell you I wouldn't think that'd be structural. If I looked on the inside, that's gonna tell my tell.
How?
There's drywall.
Well, you know that, well, no, that's not true. You know that at least one of those 2-4s on the set of 334s is gonna be structural, because just looking at the house design, 1-story like that, you're not gonna get over an 8-foot span without a head.
Nope.
So you know that one of those 2 is gonna be structural, for sure.
You know this in the middle, that 10-inch spot, you know that's structural.
You also need the 2-4s. 2-4s on
So knowing what your inside and your outside looks like is key and crucial on these things, right? So on this, when I see a flat board like that in the middle of it, that's an either or. Okay, if I'm looking at that from the outside of it, I'm gonna look at the inside and the outside. I'm gonna make sure. If I have to and I got a flat edge, I'm gonna take one of the bottom of these things and see if I can't see what's going on behind there. Because you pop that out, it's gonna show you what those members are. All right, so again, I'm not too proud to basically take a look at it if I can get away from it. Because again, that's what's gonna dictate and tell me if that's structural or not. If not, I got a lot I can do with this and this, right? I can change the whole dynamic of the look of that house. If not, you're right, you're stuck into, five casements, 5 double hungs, whatever it might be. But that's something right through there you gotta look at. Obviously, I think this one here is carrying the weight of the gable, which is what's holding that up. So I probably don't want to get into any engineering that's gonna take that out, or it's gonna take forever to engineer it. A good chance it might get kicked back. So there's just differences you gotta look at when you're paying attention to that, okay? But always when you look at houses and you look at pictures, think about what you would do. This is how you get good at that design capability, is you start staring at these things and figuring out, what are my possibilities? You got a question?
I was just gonna ask, so say you see a 2x4, two 2x4 vertical behind there.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the threshold between knowing if that's structural or not? I thought it was based on the header, not the.
It's whatever's carrying the load of the header. Like if.
Right, so would a single 2x4 be enough to call that structural?
Yes. It's like this. And the inside of it, double D's up. See, this is drywall on the inside. Obviously, that's structural all day long, right? So to do that, you're going to have to modify. You have to modify your header. If you question it and say it's like in between like that, that's when I'd pick up the phone, shoot me and Vinny a picture, or me, Vinny, and Scott a picture, and then we'll tell you if it's structural or not.
So in a situation like this, is there a possibility that that's one header, but there's also structural support, or?
This is probably an older framed house by the look of it, so I would say that all day long you're going to have to do a header. Just because it's three separate ones, we got those 6-inch wide posts that go in the middle of it. That more than likely is always going to be structural. When you see it drywalled in between like that, it's a good idea to know it. The only way you're not going to know it is if there's 2 windows sitting side by side and there's a wood mullion, like a little wood mullion sits in between it, that's less than 4 inches. That can generally come out of there all the time.
So if we do not have 12 inches per foot, do we have the option to have we text you and Vinny and see if we can do a steel beam or drop down so we're able to still fit it in there?
It's situational. It's I can't tell you. Every house is different. So that's why.
We have that option to do that, correct?
Yeah. Yep. So it's 12 o'clock. What I had wanted to do earlier that I couldn't do, and I wanted to earlier go through those. I forgot he was coming in today, which I'm kind of glad he did. But I wanted to go through and make you guys price those things out and make sure you understood. But we went over pricing pretty good earlier. So I'm pretty confident. Has anybody got questions on that stuff? About what to charge, that aspect, any of the miscellaneous modifications, any of that? Okay. So if you have questions, let me know, and let's work them out while you're in the house. You can take a time out or a depth and breadth going outside. I just want to make sure we're on top of that. Secondly is, I've recorded both of these right through here. I want to think about it, and I'm getting other estimates. If you don't know those by heart, shame on you. Let me repeat that. If you don't know those by heart, shame on you. You're walking away from business. Phil Schrager, which was the president of Pacesetter, they just did a tribute to him, and he was talking about the B-back bus way back in the day, right? There is no B-back bus. There's nothing else to go on that thing. You walk away from it, you're dead. Dead in the water. Might as well just kiss it away. You gave the competition your business, right? So they used to drill on, they said, the difference between a good company and a bad company is the ability to convert the business on the same day. The difference between a good company and a bad company is the ability to convert the business on the same day, right? Look at what Renewal by Andersen did. They started converting on the same day, their numbers went way up. Look at basically Pacesetter back in the day, converted their business on the same day, numbers went way up. Champion back in the day, converted their business same day, all the numbers went way up, right? All the basically successful companies that have been successful have known how to get that business on the same day. That's why if you get out and think about it, realize that's money. Obviously, getting other estimates, the only thing they're looking for is the same product as what you're carrying at a cheaper price point, right? So remember, first one, you know, basically nice people like yourself come and think about it, you know, generally means one or two things, right? They haven't found the right company and list all the reasons why they love the company and they committed to you. They were 100% confident, trust and true Star Modeling. You know, the product, you know, you said you wouldn't be willing to give anything away about the product or anything that we need to do to take care of the problem solution on there. You told me you definitely love the color choices, everything. So that's not it, right? We talked about the warranty and the warranty behind the warranty, how that's not a problem. And basically you actually love the warranty and the backing that we're going to give into you. So it sounds like the company side, there's no challenge with that, right? So there's got to be the money side. So let me ask you, how much too much is the $373 a month or the $19,746? We think of more like $14,500, $15,000, what were you thinking? Or basically we're thinking more like $2,700 depending on what route they're going at that point. But you got to get it to the money, right? I'd rather you walk out of that thing with a damn no than hey, call me back next Tuesday, 2 o'clock after I forgot everything I told you and expect to get a yes. No, you're waiting by the phone. You're waiting by the bat phone that has nobody on the other end of it. Okay. The other thing of it is I'm getting other estimates to roll through it real quick because again I recorded this the other day. So again, you know, nice people like yourself tell me they're getting other estimates. That sounds like to me that's the only reason we're not moving forward is that and nothing else. Yes, I isolate and identify, right? Yeah, that's it. You know, great. You know, generally what that means in our industry is when nice people like yourself share that with me. It means they're looking for 3 things: looking for the best quality products, the best service guarantees for the cheapest price, right? Would you assume that's what you're looking for? Absolutely. Well, you know, we've been out here a long time, and we did share basically there's some specific things you were looking for, right? So the best quality products, we talked about you needed the Duracast or basically the, you know, Duragard or whatever it is, basically the polymer series that was going to take care of this, and this on the home, right? Not to mention with the installation aspect of it. You told me you weren't willing to give any of that up. That hasn't changed, right? What about basically the service and guarantees? You know, obviously it's a really lonely business out there knowing 96% of all contractors fail in their first 2 years, right? Because I can do the quick version, but you're not going to get as much out of it. Basically, fail in the next 2 years. So if you had no one to call if you did have a problem, how would that make you feel? So you don't really want to give that up. So really the only thing is cheap price, right? So for your long-term happiness, which one of the 3 you want to give up? Obviously, we know it's not quality product, and we know it's not service and guarantee. So come on, it's got to be cheap price. So let me ask you, it's not really about going out and getting 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different estimates. It's just about basically how uncomfortable you are with the $373 a month, right? Let me ask you, what is more affordable, $270, $300? Then you're going back the same route as you did on the first one. It's just, as I explained to somebody else, if you go right at it without basically warming it up first, the word sequence matters more than what you're saying. It's not the song, it's the singer. It's the word sequence matters more than what you're saying. Sure, I can go to it, so it's really the money, right? That's not going to work the same as massaging it in there because you got to make them feel like they're winning and you understand where they're coming from, not try to slap with common sense. So if you're shortcutting that, you're only being half, if a quarter as effective as you could be if you're utilizing the entire speak of it. And that's where the big difference happens. That's where the amateur practice can get it right, as a professional practice you can't get it wrong because you're going to get a lot more if you say the whole saying rather than just a part of it. Make sense? All right. I promise you, it's only going to make you make money. And if you're not closing, then it'll be the part where I push it and then you mother F me in the bank. That's where it is. All right. With that said, in closing, there are conditions of blindness so voluntary that they become complacency. So when I look at that, when you look at anything, right, it's easy to get complacent. If you're on a good streak and you're moving in the right direction, it's whatever you're looking at, it's easy to basically set stagnant where you're at and feel like you're being successful, right? If I feel like I'm getting my gains on where I want to be, I feel like I'm what I want to, I feel like I'm accomplishing what I want to be, it's easy to start going on a coaster. The bad thing when you go on a coaster, though, is that's where you start creating bad habits and basically eventually you're going to start trailing back down the wrong direction. So when you get comfortable, should be the point where you put the gas on harder and keep pushing to get better. If you stop pushing to get better and stop learning, you're going to get the law of diminishing returns. So we want to make sure we are pushing as hard and not getting blind to the conditions of either the customer, or they're telling you they want the cheapest option, or the customer telling you got 3 or 4 other estimates coming out after you, or the customer telling you the first person in, the customer telling you that they need to talk about whatever they need to talk about. Don't get blind to the conditions. Make the main thing the main thing. Because at the end of the day, if you did a great job on your inspection, you built either energy efficiency, urgency, whatever it might be, make sure you're doing the things that you need to be doing to be successful. Forget all the rest. As I said today, not easy. It's too easy beating the losers. We got to beat the winners. That's how you become legendary. All right. Who they think gonna be San Diego? Nobody. Have a good day, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, guys.